a roll call, starting with Vice Mayor Yasu.
Aye.
Okay. Councilman Hopkins, Laura Hopkins.
Here.
Councilman Jamie Carroll. Did you hear him?
No.
Okay.
Not yet, Mayor.
Councilman Hassan. I didn't hear him. And Councilwoman Deborah Johnson, are you on?
I'm here.
Okay. And based on that,
I have
yes.
a motion before we start.
Yes.
I would like to make amendment to the agenda item. I move to remove the discussion on personnel matter and move it to next week city council meeting
If
on
I
the
may,
executive session.
Mr. Vice Mayor, excuse me, and Madam Mayor, you called to, did you call to order, or the agenda is to call to order the special call meeting, which is the budget public hearing, the budget presentation and budget public hearing.
So
No,
what?
I just going to make quickly change the agenda because we have a lot of agenda items, and we're going to discuss the legal matter, but not the personnel matter today.
But we haven't, that meeting was not called to order yet.
So, Vice Mayor, when we get ready to adjourn and we get into section E, then that's when we can go ahead and take care of your motion. Is that okay?
That works.
Okay, thank you so much.
There
And
are
so with
essentially
that,
two meetings.
we should have quorum.
Yes, we have.
Okay. And so we will proceed with the new business. The new business for this session is D1. It is the 2021 budget adoption. And we will have a presentation by our city manager, Robin Gomez. Following the city presentation, we will open it up to a public hearing. Mr. Gomez, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And good evening to everybody. This is Robin Gomez, the Clarkston City Manager. At this meeting, we are very privileged and honored to provide our fiscal year 2021 budget. As well, everyone except Madam Mayor. At the prior meeting, I did present a preliminary budget. This is the first go of approaching a final budget that the council will review at this meeting, as well as the public can review it and comment. And then also next Tuesday, December the 8th, this a very similar process of presentation followed by council review, comment, discussion, as well as the second public hearing on the fiscal 2021 budget. And then at the end of next Tuesday's public hearing, then the council will vote hopefully to adopt the budget. And so that's how the process currently works. I'm sorry, that's on this slide here. The first presentation was made on October the 27th, 2020. We are here this evening, December 1st. And as I stated, December the 8th, the second opportunity next week. This presentation will be fairly similar to the October 27th, but I'll still go through every slide and a few other and some additional information. As I stated before, we're still living with daily, as we have for the last nearly 9 months of our city operations and our lives, of the impacts of the current virus, the COVID-19. And we're still expecting we're still in the unknown as to some of the economic impacts going forward, particularly into 2021. As you're all aware, currently in 2020, we fortunately were the beneficiaries of some federal funding, the CARES Act funds that we've discussed, and there'll be even more discussions at the regular work session. That has provided the opportunity to help quite a few residents, those that have been adversely impacted, mainly by virtue of either losing their job or having their work hours reduced. So that has helped this current year. We don't know what 2021 will hold up. There will be a new federal administration. Whether there's some type of similar, I guess for lack of a better term, assistance in 2021, that's still yet to be determined. That aside, we have not seen the significant negative economic impacts that other cities are experiencing. We are actually faring very well. I would say we're faring well, excuse me, in terms of that our revenues have come in fairly close to the prior year. We have had some increases in some revenues, and I'll have a full update next week during my presentation at the council meeting. But just to preface really the budget for next year, we're going to finish 2020 well, meaning we'll be in a good position to begin 2021. But we don't know really what 2021 will hold. We've, again, throughout the country, throughout the world, high levels of unemployment. Again, the changes in industries with certain industries such as retail, food services, those have undergone some significant changes. For us, really our biggest change in the services we provide are that we've gone to certainly more digital, more phone-based, and less in person, which still affords us the opportunity to provide the services that we provide, mainly police, public works, planning and development, code compliance, et cetera. So we really haven't seen the significant impacts. But again, to restate, as I have many times, we don't know what 2021 will hold, but we're very hopeful that it'll be fine and we'll be able to weather everything that has happened fairly well. So really our budget for fiscal 21, no significant changes. The overall fiscal 2021 budget is just over $11.5 million, $11,508,463, $11,508,463, which is again all the funds. And the next slide shows again what our general fund, our seizures, grants, host, our stormwater, sanitation, and our SPLOST fund. And you can see our general fund just under $7 million, which comprises about 59% of our total $11.5 million budget. The total budget is a 12.6% decrease over the current year's total budget. We will be making amendments to the total budget that we will have for you, hopefully at the January work session for the February council meeting, which will be and this number will likely be several $1 million less, the total budget for the current fiscal year. Again, just to go over our general fund revenue, what we're proposing for next year, it's a $21,565 increase over the current year. Again, no significant changes, just some of the changes for the increase, a net of an increase of 21,500 are that we are still proposing a 3% salary increase for all employees, with the exception of myself, but that'll be discussed later. We've had some increases to our health, approximately a 12% increase to our health insurance premium, and we've added some additional components that I'll detail a little bit later, such as additional fees for an urban forester vendor or firm to review our tree canopy and review developments for the impact on trees, a part-time park ranger, also some allocations for grant writing services, just to name a few of the changes from the prior year from the current year to next year. Here's a little bit of the history of our general fund. Of course, we've had an increasing. There are differences are attributed to when some of the SPLOST projects construction began in 18, really hit a peak in 19 and in the current year. And then we're continuing with the ongoing projects, certainly all the way through 2023. the composition of our general fund revenue. I think a lot of people are, I've had some residents who thought our property taxes were a lot higher, or they comprised nearly 70% of our general fund revenue, but they're about 54%. I believe for the school district, approximately 70% of their revenue comes from property taxes, but the screen shows other taxes and fees about a third. So we do generate a significant majority of our revenue, nearly over 87%, from all the different taxes and fees that we do collect. Even, rentals of pavilions and the Women's Club, which we've had very little this year due to the virus, but you can see all of our revenues. We've kept our court fines and forfeitures at the same level. We're just to be kind of consistent, but we know that we are fairly certain that those will be less than that, as we will likely finish the current year probably in the neighborhood of between 400 to 450,000 in revenue. So we will make those adjustments, but just for consistency from one year to the next. Our general fund expenditures by main category, by in essence department or departments, you can see our administration, which does include the expenses, salaries, and for all of you, for the mayor and the council, although they are not counted as full-time equivalent positions. But you can see our administration, planning and development, we spend the most on our police. That's about a third of our total general fund budget. Public Works is next at 17%, and then the related for debt service and capital projects, which again are no significant change from the current year to next year. So again, just our total general fund budget, just a very slight increase over the current year. Our 10-year gross history of our tax digest, which is the basis for our property tax revenue, again, which comprises 54% of our general revenue fund. We've been the beneficiary of increases in the last, since 2014, from 13 to 14, and those continued. We experienced about a 12% increase from 2019 to 2020. Again, we don't know what 21 will bring, but we left it, as I explained back in October, we left our property taxes fairly steady for fiscal 21 as they are in fiscal 20. We will likely see some of the new projects that will be on the tax digest come May, but we're still not 100% certain. It depends whether the occupancy for those. For example, the townhomes, the Glendale Road townhomes on Glendale and Church, 2 of those units are already occupied. So those 2 units will be added to the tax digest in 2021. It is anticipated that probably as many as 20 will be occupied by then of the 60. So we will see that in addition to whatever growth in valuation the property assessor places on our properties. And you can see that, again, as I stated, our gross digest has increased about 240% since 2013. Our millage rate, we're proposing to keep the millage rate the same. Without COVID, without our current situation, likely we would have seen a reduction in this, and it has been my goal to show a reduction for this going forward. Hopefully, as our current developments go on the tax roll, then likely we will see our millage rate, our tax rate, decrease. This slide just shows the proposed millage rates for other DeKalb cities, along with the total millage rate, the column to the far right. And you can see we're toward the higher end, and again, poised hopefully over the next 2 years and more to see a reduction in this again as we experience growth in valuations, or potentially in future years through annexation that would similarly add to our tax roll. Again, just to reiterate how are the taxes computed, if a property is appraised at 100,000, it is assessed for tax purposes at 40,000, multiplied times our millage rate. And you can see that a property appraised at 100 with an assessed value of 40,000 would pay $635.60 to the city of Clarkston. Our personnel, what we're looking to fund in the coming year, really, again, the only change, there's two changes from the current year. One is that we're proposing to transfer our communications position from administration to police. They will dedicate really 75 to 80% of the time or possibly more for police related activities. And the addition of a 1/2 FTE or full-time equivalent in our Public Works Department, the park ranger position. So a total of 45.1. And these are the changes that I mentioned. We've also removed a vacancy in our planning and development, the engineer position that was never filled, but the work was completed by our contract engineering firm. For, as I've said before, our vision, what we do, what we're constantly thinking, or certainly I'm thinking every day, is promoting our public safety. Our residents, our businesses, our visitors need to feel safe. They need to see that our police are patrolling, that we're taking care of our infrastructure. Economic development is similarly extremely important, to continue to promote growth in our city, but also continue to reinvest in our existing economies and look for just other opportunities where we can enhance both existing investment from current property owners, as well as into the future from newer or other investors that are taking an interest in Clarkston. We want to also maintain our infrastructure, maintain our roads, our streets, our stormwater enterprise, and certainly make sure that everything, we're spending over $20 million over a 6-year period in our roads, streets, sidewalks, parks, and we want to make sure that that is well maintained into the future. And ultimately that we do provide as efficient and effective services as possible. Just to quickly go over some of how we function administratively. I think most everyone is aware of legislative authorities from our charter and our code granted to the mayor and the council. So adopt ordinances, resolutions, provide the direction, strategy, the executive authority resting with myself as the manager responsible for our daily operations and all of city personnel and projects and all the contracts that we administer. In administration, again, we have seven positions, the mayor and the council as the legislative authority, all elected to serve. They are not included in our full-time equivalency count because the council are not city employees. The budget for this year for both the council and the mayor, really no significant increase. For 2021, just a reminder, were increases in the current year that were adopted a couple of years ago for salaries for all of you, for all the mayor and the council. Again, these are the 5 FTEs, the manager, the clerk, the finance director, an administrative coordinator, and an accountant, and all receiving a 3% salary increase, again, with the exception of myself. This just lists the expenditures proposed for fiscal 21 by the main categories of personnel, our purchasing and contracted services and supplies. And again, here's some of the contracts that we oversee, what we anticipate spending in 2021 for our city attorney, our information technology, our external auditors, our liability insurance. Again, where we're looking to allocate up to $25,000 for grant writing. We've also left $15,000 if we choose to perform some type of annexation study at some point, which we have not done this year, but we will be providing an update in January as to some work that staff has been doing. And then just some other categories for dues and subscriptions, such as our membership to the Georgia Municipal Association, the DeKalb Municipal Association, our website maintenance, and ClearGov, which is our software that we use for mapping. Our Muni Code updates, which is how we update our code of ordinances online, and then other related expenditures related to elections, equipment rental. We do pay to the county for administering our tax billing and collections, and then some legal advertising that we're required to do. On to public safety, as I've stated, we obviously want to ensure that we're an extremely safe, secure city. Again, for all residents, businesses, and visitors. Our police department is divided into the Office of the Chief, a criminal investigative division, and our largest in patrol. We look to be even more kind of community oriented, continue to be as professional as we can be, and certainly continue with training. This is a typo, and I apologize. We have 21 full-time equivalencies with the proposed transfer of the position from my office over to police. And then the indicator that is more widely used, but perhaps not as much as it once was, the number of sworn or full-time officers per 1,000 residents. It tends to vary from a low of 1.25 in certain cities to as many as 3 in some very large cities such as New York and Houston and Los Angeles. The total budget for police this year, a little over 2.2 million. Again, the increases related with the salary. They'll continue to focus on various special projects and enhance service levels, really to interact as much as we possibly can, as safely as we can, given the current conditions with our residents and businesses. Our planning and economic development, again, continue promoting Clarkston, continue to seek out marketing, advertising opportunities to further promote the city. We've allocated, and I didn't mention this in the changes for next year, but we're allocating up to $30,000 specifically for marketing and advertising related type of work, whether that be hiring an outside firm, which likely will happen, or potentially hiring just an individual, perhaps part-time, to perform various marketing and outreach and further promoting the city, again, to continue to tell our story. The retain and enhance existing businesses, continue to promote and foster what makes Clarkston quite unique among many things, but certainly our diversity, a strong focus on our city center, but still ensuring that we continue to include and continue to promote and assist and advocate as much as we can for our neighborhoods and our multifamily areas, our single family areas. And we are obviously continuing with our review of the zoning code by hiring an outside firm. We will have an update at the next meeting regarding where we are in that. But there was some information provided by Ms. Cowie in her update. Whether we decide to look at any annexation is, as I stated, we will have some data in January, but how we are going to proceed with that, we likely a subject of discussion during a council senior staff retreat, as well as just ongoing conversations throughout 2021 and beyond. Also, in our planning and economic development is our code compliance or code enforcement, making sure that we do abide by city codes based on our community standards and continue to promote our beautification. And certainly they've been busy with lots of the developments that are happening. And although we may be hitting a little bit of a back to normalcy, as we're such a small city that we do have limited space for redevelopments, although there are still some out there. But at some point you run out of room or space. And again, the budget listed there that includes a 3% salary increase. There's the director and the code compliance, and they're in charge of also our plan review, our issuing building permits and the building inspections, along with our contracted firm, and oversee the planning and zoning board. Our public works, just again, continuing with the enhanced maintenance, beautification of streets, our litter control, comprehensive management of all of our green areas, and our street repairs, filling potholes, managing our street sweeping contract as well. Also maintaining our parks, Milan Park, Friendship Forest, 40 Oaks, and also the alternative landscaping areas that, although we're still in part of the one-year agreement with the landscape company that installed at the 3 locations around Refuge Coffee, at the Brockett Triangle, and inside Friendship Forest. Public Works also manages and maintains our buildings, our structures, and our 6 facilities, and provide all the infrastructure and assistance for all the special events. The total budget for Public Works, and again, including the 3% salary, just over 1.1 million. We do break it out by the functions listed: Public Works, Buildings and Grounds, and Parks. And again, a total of 12.1 FTEs. Some of our capital for Public Works, these are very similar to the current year, with the exception of 40 Oaks, where we are going to look to find hopefully a historical firm, engineering, architectural firms, to provide us some hopefully very unique but practical solutions for renovating the structure at 40 Oaks. But also you can see just replacement of other equipment, including looking to acquire a bucket and a sanitation trucks. Stormwater, again, we do maintain our stormwater infrastructure, seasonal work. In doing that, we allocate the equivalent of 2 full-time employees that are paid out of the stormwater fund, specifically for stormwater related work, which mainly to comply with our stormwater permit, our National Pollution Discharge Emitting System permit, and also, as I stated earlier, our street sweeping contract. Our courts, we're not making any changes to our municipal court. The budget just under 500,000 for FTEs, the chief court clerk to records, and 2 court clerks. And again, managing all of our court proceedings, scheduling, and overseeing, working with our judge, our solicitor, our public defender. I did include revenue activity reductions, as we do receive fewer, as our revenue decreases, so does the contributions that we provide to other entities within the county and the state. A portion of many of the citations that are issued are under Georgia code. Parts of those redistributed to certain funds. So if our revenue is less than on the expense, then that further lowers the expense side, as we don't have to then pay those over to the state and or the county. Just to also to remind, we do the other infrastructure, mainly water, sewer, fire, rescue, and overall comprehensive emergency management. We do not provide those. There is an agreement with DeKalb County, and we stay in communication with the county for these services, but they do provide those directly to our residents and businesses and visitors. This slide just shows our community action projects that we had discussed for our originally urban agricultural, but environmental, that would be up to the environmental committee as to what to allocate that to. We also have the 5, we just left on here the 5 advisory groups: the early learning, the youth, the senior, the art, and health, that were created between 2019 and 2020. Hopefully we have some special events in 21 and figure out the best way how to hold some of those given the current conditions, ensure distancing and mask wearing, etc. We're continuing with the contribution to the community center and the Culture Fest, Segal Radio, and the Tell Me a Story Festival. Of all of these, really, we've been providing the funding for the current year to the community center, to Segal Radio, and half to the Tell Me a Story, which they did hold virtually earlier this year. But we are looking to hopefully those return next year. And just on the efficiency services component, where obviously technology is big. We're looking currently to allow for more online filing of applications specifically for planning and development, our business registration permits, all of those so that they can be directly submitted online. And, you know, folks don't have to obviously come into our facilities, and certainly continue to look at ways that we can leverage through our collaborations and partnerships, and certainly look for outside grants and continue to ensure that we receive all the revenue that we're lawfully entitled to. Just to quickly go over our debt, really no significant change in our debt service. We're still obligated to pay the debt for the items that we've purchased over the last few years, as well as the grants that we've received related to construction. For our SPLOST, there will likely be changes as we go forward. We're getting close to completing the streetscape. However, we will have projects that will begin, specifically Roland from Market down to Lovejoy, and then Market Street with sidewalks, and then even potentially the repairs to Norman Road at Milam Park. But this is the anticipated of what we're looking to spend. That includes the bond principal and the interest for the bonds that we issue, or the money that we borrowed. Our stormwater, again, no significant changes other than the majority of the money that we'll be spending for the DeBell Street project will happen in fiscal 21, and we're just simply carrying the money over from the current year to then. We will have a fairly good ending balance, but again, we will utilize that mainly for that project going forward. Our sanitation, recycling, we've also similarly expecting our expenditures to increase in 21 with the addition of recycling. That's the subject of discussion a little bit later on, but we're hoping that we won't need to make any changes in terms of funding for during 21 and hopefully 22, but certainly into the future, just with normal increases, we will likely see adjustments to this likely in 2023 or 2024, but nothing for next year. And just a few more, really, our grants, again, we've applied for the local maintenance infrastructure improvement grant that we have for each of the last few years, and also for some protective gear for police. So no significant changes. So again, this is our total, just 11,508,463 for next year. And I just wanted to go over, so after this presentation in the agenda document is the entire city budget. There is a narrative in the form of a memorandum that just provides a little bit more detail as to the next year's budget with kind of the changes from the current year. But again, there are really no significant changes other than what I've already discussed. After the narrative, the data or the information goes into specific line items in a spreadsheet type form. So this is the main one for our general fund revenues and expenditures for the current year, for the final or the actual dollars received and spent in 19, then what was budgeted in 20, the amounts through October the 13th of 2020, and then what we expect to finish 2020 based on data that we had through October the 13th. And then we have the final column all the way to the right is the requested for fiscal 2021. After these, and they go individual by the main heading, so administration followed by public safety, there are brief narratives to further describe, for example, once you get into administration here, the 5 positions that are funded and what the cost for those are, and then it breaks it out in kind of in a brief written form what we do. So as I mentioned earlier, administration, tax billing, collection services, we pay the county $4,500 to administer and to send out the bills and to collect the revenue for property taxes, as well as our sanitation and stormwater. So scrolling through these and looking through all this, there's an awful lot of data and information that provides the sort of the definitions for each one of these categories or each line item that is part of our budget for each department. So all of that, even our, as I mentioned, one of the slides listed the 23,665 in dues and subscriptions. Here's the list of all of those dues and subscriptions that we anticipate we would spend in 2021. I did leave out, for example, one of the newer ones of our dues and subscriptions is the National League of Cities, that we've received quite a bit of good information and opportunities for some grants and collaboration, for example, for early learning. So lots of information throughout the rest of these pages and the document, and again, by category, and it all totals or foots back to certainly the PowerPoint slide and the description. So it goes on through each department: police, public works, our planning and development, and the courts, and then even the rest of our funds into the SPLOST, our seizure, sanitation, and stormwater. So unless there are any, Madam Mayor and Council, any questions, I'm sure we'll have questions and go through that, but this concludes my presentation. Hold on, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
There we go.
Okay, you got me there. Thank you, Mr. Gomez. At this time, I will ask the council if you have any questions for our presentation. And I see Councilman Hopkins.
Yeah, I think she's just
she needs to be
unmuted.
unmuted.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There
All
you go.
I have a question. I see that you have $30,000 for like promoting Clarkston and outreach, and you also listed as a priority to promote diversity, but maybe I missed it. Don't see anything in there for translation services, which is one of the things that we got slammed for by the Southern Center for Human Rights, of not offering translation or not having it immediately available to people in the courts. And that's really, I just learned this last year, not cheap. I did that one brochure on COVID, and we got it priced to translate it into 7 languages, and it was what, like $4,000 or $5,000 for 2 pages. Pretty dense, but still 2 pages of material. So I think if we're really serious about promoting diversity of the people that are currently living here, we need to have everything translated to the primary languages in Clarkston.
And we do offer translation services in the courts. And when we met with the Southern Center for Human Rights, we did clarify our translation services, which we do provide. And we've enhanced because our officers have been utilizing, and they currently utilize, the phones that do have the automatic translation. So yeah, the Southern Center was wrong in their analysis. We do provide that. We have been providing that. One of their concerns, which was a valid concern, was that we were allowing family members to assist with the translation, and we have stopped that. But we do, and we spend probably about $15,000 a year on providing translation services in our courts. So we do have that. We just don't have it listed as a specific line item, but we do provide that certainly as needed.
Okay, that's specific for the courts, but other things, like particularly this year with the COVID, the signs on the shop windows saying, we are a city that requires masks. A lot of the help that we've been offering, utilities assistance, rental assistance, mortgage assistance, I feel like that all could have been available and out there on our social media in various languages, to make sure, rather than just sort of, again, relying on families to get the word through to their communities. A couple people understand what's going on, they tell others, but word of mouth is not always the best communication. I just think that's a key essential point to supporting our diverse residents.
Point, Council Member Hopkins. And we should note that because we do need to make sure, to your point, while we have the website translated, we don't have those key documents. So that's something that we should consider. Are there any other comments from the council members? Okay. Hearing no additional comments, we will close the presentation and we will move into the public hearing. And Mr. Gomez, did you have anyone who signed up for the public hearing?
We only had nobody signed up specifically for the budget public hearing. Mr. Warren Hadlock signed up to speak for everything, as he explained to me, but that he's in essence, he could be the only one who signed up to speak for this item.
With that being said, we will open it up for the public hearing and allow people to provide comments. And since we have only Mr. Hadlock, and he will be allowed 3 minutes for his comments. And so Mr. Hadlock, welcome. And we'd like to hear what you'd have to say about the budget.
I was interested in the upkeep of Friendship Forest wetlands. Mr. Gomez, I believe there was I think I understood you tell me at one time we had a contract with a company to tend to that twice a year. Is that a line item in the budget?
It doesn't specifically say for Friendship Forest, but it's a professional service for the maintenance.
Okay. And
so we have to maintain it. So we will obviously be maintaining the wetlands. Otherwise they're not going to survive. But yes, that's in the budget to provide that service.
And the park ranger, is that a line item? That's not a defined.
It's a part-time position in Public Works. So it'd be under part-time salaries in Public Works.
So $15 an hour or so.
I think we put in $20 an hour for 1,000 hours.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadlock. And since we do not have any other people to make comments for our public hearing, we'll go ahead and close out the public hearing. And I just want to make sure in terms of the council members, did you have any other comments before we end this item?
I did. I just put it in the chat because I was muted, but I didn't see a city arborist in the budget. It did say urban ag though, so I don't know if that's the same thing, but city arborist.
It's in the Public Works budget where I'd have to get to that exact item, but we did put in $50,000 for that role, that firm that we hire. I can certainly get to it. It's under professional services in, I remember exactly, it's in Public Works. Public Works.
Since I'm still unmuted, I see Roberta Malavenda tried to send in a request, but she's not being recognized.
I'm going to go ahead and allow Mr. Gomez to answer the question. And once he answers the question, I'll go back to that. Thank you.
Here in the parks where we parks budget, professional services, it's listed as tree removal, but it's tree removal and urban forestry. Because we're not just going to spend $50,000 on removing trees. So it's in the parks budget under
Well-
professional services.
Is that, I mean, tree removal,
Yeah, it's not, it should say urban forestry for 50,000 because we had tree removal for 15,000 originally, but we changed this. This should say urban forestry rather than tree removal services. We'll correct it for next week.
so what is the anticipated expenditure for a city arborist?
$50,000.
But that includes tree removal.
No, that's just the arborist.
Okay, so there's going to be, that says $50,000 for tree removal, and you're saying you're going to change it, you're going to add,
That'll say, yeah, it'll say urban forestry services.
which will include tree removal
No,
and,
tree removal will be in a different line item.
okay, so the numbers will be changing.
No, the numbers will stay the same. The description will change.
The titles will change, so it won't say
Tree
Tree-
removal, it will say urban forestry
at the 50,000.
services at 50,000.
Is urban forestry, and so tree removal will not be in the budget anywhere.
Tree removal will be in professional services up above
Okay,
under buildings and grounds.
okay. And then urban forestry, which would be essentially the city arborist as defined.
Correct. We don't anticipate spending $50,000, but it is pretty expensive.
Right,
And we had originally added 30,000, it'll be somewhere likely between 30 and 50,000. We originally had 20,000 just for tree removal. We added 30,000 for the urban forester, but now we'll leave it at 50,000 at urban forestry in the budget that you will see for next week.
okay,
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Councilmember Hopkins, did that answer your question?
that's it, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. And so I noticed in the chat that Roberta Malavina was put in a request to honor that will allow you to speak. So Mr. Gomez, can you unmute
Yep,
her?
I did it twice.
Thank you. And I'll be very quick. I just wanted to support the, and I've talked to other people, Laura Hopkins' notion to add funding in the budget, maybe under communications or maybe somewhere else. Maybe it's a task of the Community Development Committee, but somewhere that there is a continuing inventory of those areas that need translation. And it could be for a new ordinance. It could be to let people know about special events. I'm thinking the holiday party and just other things that the city does that where flyers and other things could be translated, including new directives that are put out by the city. Perhaps a portion of the Friday e-newsletter could be translated. I've heard it said that there's some translation on the website. I don't know that I've seen it, but some sort of an inventory of in a priority of what would be important to translate, and some money somewhere in the budget for that type of service. We also noted that the Welcoming America report, which came out, I think 2 days after Robin got here, also mentioned the need for more translation services for our diverse population. So I think it's an area that could be looked at and researched, and perhaps some money in the budget could be allocated for translation services based on some priority setting.
Uh,
I see
can't
that.
hear you, Beverly.
Can you hear me
Okay.
now? Okay, sorry
Yes.
about that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I see that Mr. Moore had his hand raised, and would you please allow him the opportunity to speak, Mr. Gomez?
He is unmuted.
Thank you.
No, I did not raise my hand. I was just suggesting that Roberta raise her hand to get allowed into the conversation. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. And so with that being said, that concludes the public hearing.
I just got one last thing. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I just want to follow up with Councilmember Hopkins' question on the professional services, particularly with the city arborist. So since we have the $50,000 allocated for that, is the city, are we gonna advertise this so that we can have one specific person contracted with the city, and hopefully it will be somebody with some experience in the field?
Yes, yeah, we'll issue a request for qualifications and look to have a firm that we would utilize on call as needed for all developments, to look at our canopy, to provide those urban forestry services that we need.
Vice Mayor Yasu. So with that,
Madam
yes,
Mayor, just one more thing to add regarding the translations. Our internet site has the current, and has had it since I've been here, well, long before I arrived, the ability where you can choose a language. It's likely, I'm not sure if it's a Google or through our web provider, but you can click on, there's quite a few languages, and it automatically translates various aspects of our internet site. Since my first language is Spanish, when I click on Spanish, it does translate just about everything into Spanish. So I've tried the French since I'm familiar with French, but that's the extent of my languages that I speak. So it does do, and it's not perfect, but there is the ability to do that. I've had a few residents call and ask if that was available, and I explained to them it is. And some, I never followed up with any of them, but I know I've had others who have said, oh yeah, I've gone and I found it in a specific language and it was available. In terms of translating documents, we can certainly look to do more of that. We did that with some of the items that we issued for, as we started issuing information for COVID, but we can certainly look to do more. We have that availability to contract with that and with various agencies that are willing to do it. We have been utilizing our six main languages that are spoken, but occasionally we get requests for more languages. So we may look to go to as many as 10, but certainly that's something we can do. I'm supportive of that. In a prior lifetime, we did some of that at another city that I was at, and it was very interesting because we received just as many accolades. We received just as much criticism, which is kind of interesting, but it's all for a good purpose, good reasons to do that. An informed residency is what we need. Informed residents and businesses are clearly what we need more of.
and thank you, Mr. Gomez, for that additional comment. And with that, if there are no other comments from our council, we will close out the public hearing, and then we will close out this portion of the special call meeting. So with that being said, we will have for the work session, any member of the public may address questions or comments to the council referencing only agenda items after the mayor and council have had the opportunity to discuss the agenda item. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments. So before we move any further, are there any updates or changes to the agenda?
Is this the time to amend the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I move that we remove from the executive session the discussion for personnel matter and move it for next week at the city council meeting instead.
Is there a second?
Go ahead.
Okay, so it was moved by Vice Mayor Yasu to move the personnel matter from the executive session and seconded by Council Member Hopkins. Okay, is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye, and we'll.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Carroll.
Aye.
Okay, Councilman Hassan.
He's muted, but he's saying aye.
Okay, and Councilman Johnson. Okay, thank you. So that has been approved, and so we made the update to the agenda. Thank you, everyone. So we will proceed. We have no old business, and then we will start with item G1, ordinance to readopt the city's sign ordinance and to prohibit billboards along Interstate 285. And Mr. Gomez, would you please provide information for this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item, as was presented and reviewed and approved by the Planning and Zoning Board at their most recent meeting, this is really as a result of a recent application and involving a firm seeking to install billboards, 4 to be precise, at 4 locations in and around Interstate 285. And also along Church and East Ponce. This was a request, a suggestion from our city attorney that we look to just enhance our existing ordinances so that we include a text amendment to our current sign ordinance to prohibit any new billboard signs along Interstate 285. Again, it's our desire to regulate the time, the place, the manner as to where the billboards can go, keeping in mind our aesthetics, all the beautification that has been happening in our city. As I mentioned during the budget presentation, where we will be spending nearly $20 million to improve our city, particularly the entrances off of I-285, and some of that work has already been completed. So this just further codifies it and further promotes that we are, no longer allowing them along 285. In the item, the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Board meeting that was held on November the 17th are included. As I stated, the board recommended that we do proceed with this ordinance. Excuse me. And Shawana, is there anything else to add? I guess not.
She's muted.
I was just double checking. Does Ms. Cowie have anything else to add?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Shawana.
Thank you. No, just a few little details from the Planning and Zoning Board that the sign ordinance is not changing, other than being specific on prohibiting those new billboards along I-285.
This time, does the council have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, we will proceed with item G2. And Mr. Gomez, we will allow you to go ahead and talk about that item. Item G2 is,
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I think we gotta allow the community
oh
to
yes, I'm
speak
so
on those.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank
That's all
you.
right.
Thank you. No, this is my new first one. So, okay. And at this time, does the community have any questions?
We had Mr. Hadlock who, again, signed up to speak for each item. The
Okay,
only
thank
one who
you.
did.
Thank you. And Mr. Hadlock, please ask your question.
He's muted as well.
I'm muted. Oh, here I go.
There you
I just
go.
wanted to say that the sign ordinance, the issue with billboards indicates how much, how detective-like we're going to have to be in our rewriting our zoning ordinance, because this type of thing has just slipped by us, and there are other things I'm afraid that'll slip by us. So I am doing my part to try to think of issues that are coming up, and as a citizen, but this is something that we got to be very careful with, and it's easy that it slipped by us because, after all, it was an annexed area and it was a complicated situation. But that's all I had to say. I just want us to be really careful going forward and try to think of all kinds of issues that can possibly come up, because they will come up in zoning. Thank you. You're muted.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get it. Thank you, Mr. Hadlock, for your comments, and that's very true that we have to be very mindful of things like this and be very strategic in terms of how we put together our new zoning information. And so, Mr. Carroll, Councilman Carroll, did you have a question? Okay, good. Okay, if there are no other questions regarding G1, we will then proceed to G2, which is ordinance to confirm zoning designation for every parcel in the city. And Mr. Gomez, would you go ahead and provide the information for this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the item lists that, again, a recommendation that we designate every single parcel in the city to its existing zoning designation or classification. So again, just for clarification, for consistency going forward, and similar to the previous item, this was also approved at the November 17th Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. And Ms. Cowee, did you have any other comments that you'd like to add?
This, Madam Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
The city, we're here just to solicit the input on the ordinance to confirm what the existing designations are for every parcel. This is not creating a new zoning classification for any of the parcels that we have. And the zoning map has been updated that correlates with the 1,473 parcels that are listed with the zoning designation.
Council members, do you have any other questions regarding this agenda item?
I just want to see some clarification. So what is the need for the city council to confirm the zoning designation if it's already part of the zoning map?
We're actually there will be a map that includes all of our boundaries, and Shawana can clarify, but we did create a new map that assigns every single parcel a zoning designation. As well, the reason the council has to approve this is because it is presented as an ordinance.
And also, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
No, go ahead, Ms. Kelby.
And just a little bit of clarification also, this will administratively be a section in our ordinance where we can go directly to this section to be able to reference those areas and that parcel and those parcels in our ordinance for administrative purposes.
Okay.
Councilmember Hopkins, you had a question?
Well, I have two questions, but did not every parcel already have a zoning assignment prior to this? Are we just confirming what was already assigned to them?
Correct.
Okay. Well, and my next question, and I feel like we're going to talk about this somewhere, but I haven't seen where it's going to come up. The lawsuit with Tucker about the former Vietnamese Baptist church that we annexed, which apparently Tucker feels was already annexed into Tucker. How is that on our agenda someplace to discuss that, and how would that be impacted? Can we?
That's in the executive session discussion.
Okay.
So it'll come up then.
All right.
Are there any other questions from the council? Hearing none, we will open it up to the public for public comments. And as I understand, Mr. Hadlock signed up for that as well.
And we also have Mr. Medford, but we'll start with Mr. Hadlock.
Yeah, I just was uncertain what why we're doing this now. I can't read the whole packet right now, but it seems to me that areas are going to be, it's very possible that certain areas or properties are going to be rezoned when we rewrite our zoning, when we get our new zoning ordinance going. So I didn't know why this was happening now. That's all. Is there, I mean, because we'll end up we're more than likely going to end up rezoning some parcels or areas with the new ordinance. That's my question. Thank you.
Can you maybe provide clarity for this one, for Mr. Hadlock's question?
Are you referring to me, Madam
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Calvi, please.
Clarification, Mr. Hadlock, is that during the process when we have zoning issues, zoning requests that are on our parcels throughout the years, there are designations and conditions that are placed on these parcels, but the maps are not updated at that time. But conditions that are placed on these parcels, as far as the rezoning, are only placed on them with the condition that the official zoning maps are updated as well and amended. And that's what we've done for housekeeping purposes. We've just correlated everything together to make sure that we have everything that is current. And of course, to address your inquiry about a rezoning request or new zoning designation, that may be a possibility when we have our public comments or our outreach or public engagement meetings during our zoning rewrite. There could be a possibility that the public and council finally decides that we are to create new zoning districts. But right now, the current districts that we have, we're just updating and making sure that everything is current.
So it's almost like it's done in preparation for the zoning rewrite. Okay. I mean, it's good preparation for it. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Calvi.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we also have public comments from Mr. Medford. Please unmute Mr. Medford, and thank you for providing comments.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to thank the city and the council for moving so swiftly on these patches, I guess you could say, to the code after we got sucker punched by the billboard company. You've heard me the last few months railing against any sort of penny ante changes to the zoning, but these kind of things are basically just stopping the bleeding. It looks like we got some good recommendations from, I'm hoping, a good zoning attorney as to what to make these changes for. I would not be adverse to having that whoever make recommendations also to make sure there's no other landmines hiding in our zoning. It will take a little while to get the zoning review done. I understand that. But some of these emergency patches that are going to be placed on here to keep us from getting sucker punched again probably would not be a bad idea. It cost us a few $1,000s, I'm sure, to get a lawyer to look at it. But this is the kind of the things that we just have to stop the bleeding before we get hit again. But once again, thank you all for jumping on this so quickly. I didn't want to speak on every single zoning ordinance, so I jumped on this one, so y'all wouldn't hear me over and over. But yeah, so thank you all for jumping on this so quickly, and hopefully this will stop it, and we won't have to worry about it for a little while. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Medford. And if that concludes the public comments and no other council comments or questions, we will move to item G3, which is to discuss an ordinance to amend the Clarkston zoning code to create the new zoning designation Railroad Open Space District. And again, we have, I didn't know if Mr. Gomez or Ms. Cowie wanted to start off with that one as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Robin. I'll turn it over to Shawana briefly, but this is an item to create in our code of ordinances, in our zoning code, a new zoning designation titled Railroad Open Space. So a new zoning district. That's all that this item is doing. And again, it was also similarly recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board at their November 17th meeting. Ms. Cowie, anything else to add?
No, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, as you did discuss briefly, this designation is to include the CSX Railroad right-of-way that runs through the city of Clarkston. And of course, this is to also include to make sure that every parcel or piece of land that's located in the city of Clarkston has a zoning designation. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Cowie. And at this time, does the council have any comments that they would like to make or questions?
I'm just curious, do we need the approval of or the recommendations or from CSX on this?
This is Stephen. Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn.
Great, thank you. No, there's nothing in the law that says that we would need their approval. What's going to be allowed in the railroad open space zone is railroad transportation, which is what they do and what their right of way was always for. So no, that's not necessary.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members? Hearing none, we will again open this for public comment. And I understand Mr. Hadlock had his name in to make public comments. So welcome again, Mr. Hadlock.
He's muted.
Okay.
Yes, he's off.
Sorry, I'm wasting your time. No, I don't have a comment on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no additional comments, and Mr. Gomez, there are no additional public comments. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. And then we can proceed to the next agenda item, which would be G4. I want to make sure.
I did have a question about the railway zone. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Thank you, Councilmember Hopkins. Please go.
But what is going to be allowed? What does that zone specifically designate, the CSX right of way?
Railroad usage.
And nothing else, like
Correct.
we can't do anything or anybody else can't do anything.
Correct.
So what we have a lot of stuff right now that's in the railroad right of way. We just planted all those trees down Church Street, which I think are technically within their right of way. They've given us a lot of leeway. Would that stop or be restricted in some way by this?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your comment. You're talking about the trees that are in the right of way?
Like all of those red bud trees that we just planted. I mean,
Well, within the last few years, right?
yeah.
No, I think that all of that will continue. We're going to maintain it. It's not as if we can't step foot on it. We mow all of the grass. We maintain quite a bit of greenery on there. We go on there to remove debris that ends up there. We mulch the areas, so we're going to continue to maintain it. This is specific to just simply stating that their railroad access will continue once and forevermore railroad access. It's not prohibiting us from doing our maintenance unless CSX wants to do the maintenance, but I've been told that's not going to happen in our lifetime.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hopkins. Okay, so with that being said, and we've had public comment, we will move to the next agenda item, which is G5. And G5 is to amend the Clarkston zoning ordinance to codify hearing procedures for zoning public hearings held by the city council. And we will have Mr. Gomez followed by Ms. Cowie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this item, again, really to clarify and to reiterate how we hold the public hearings, the procedures that we've been utilizing for any zoning item that comes before the city council. So there are really no significant changes, but I'll turn it over to Ms. Cowie to add.
Yes, that was, G6 was, I'm kind of confused here because I think that we may have skipped.
We skipped
G4.
over G4. Let's finish G5 and then we'll go back to G4.
Okay. The goal is to amend the Clarkston zoning ordinance to adopt zoning public hearing procedures that were previously adopted in September of 2019. However, those procedures were not codified in our current zoning ordinance. And this item is to actually codify that process that was already adopted again in September of 2019. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cowie. Are there any questions regarding this agenda item from the council?
I got a question. I'm not exactly sure if this was a typo, but G3 and G4 are
the same items. Am I correct?
No,
No, sir.
they're two separate items.
Can you
One
explain
is
to
to
me what the
create the
difference?
railroad. One is to create the railroad open space district in the code, and the second is to zone the actual area that has the railroad to that district.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So are there any other questions regarding this item? Hearing none, we will allow public comments. And Mr. Hadlock, would you like to go ahead and make your public comments at this time?
I don't have any on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no additional public comments and no questions from the council, we'll go back to Ordinance G4, ordinance to zone the CSX railroad right-of-way, railroad open space. And Mr. Gomez.
Right, and as we just, our attorney Quinn just clarified, this item G4 is to actually designate the railroad, the CSX railroad right-of-way to the new zoning district that G3 is creating, the new zoning district being railroad open space.
Thank you. And council members, are there any questions related to this item? Hearing none, we will again open it up for public comments. And Mr. Hadlock, if you have any comments at this time.
I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Hearing no additional comments from the council nor from the public, we will proceed with item G6, which is development of local comprehensive plan agreement with the Atlanta Regional Commission to prepare the comprehensive plan update for the city of Clarkston. And that would go to Ms. Cowie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The city's comprehensive plan, known as the Clarkston 2040, is mandated to be updated before the deadline date of October the 31st, 2021. The Department of Community Affairs requires that a regional commission is to assist in the preparation of a basic comprehensive plan, but in our case, this is an update for local governments upon the request at no additional cost. This request was submitted to ARC in January of this year, earlier this year of 2020, due to the high number of requests. To begin the update process, the city is required to enter into an agreement with the Atlanta Regional Commission, and that lists the roles and responsibilities that is listed on the screen, and you should have those also in your packet. The sections that the city is required to update include the needs and opportunities, the community work plan, a report of accomplishments, the broadband element. That was an element that was added as a requirement in 2018, so that will be a new addition to our plan update. And the land use element. We will undertake this process as we do with all our comp plans or zoning updates, the process of creating a stakeholder committee and having public outreach engagement meetings to solicit input until the final document is created and ready to present to the Planning and Zoning Board and the Mayor and City Council for adoption. So our goal is to try to have this completed and updated by August 2021 so we can meet that October 2021 deadline. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Cowie. And at this time, do we have any comments from the council members?
I'm just curious, is this going to cost the city and have we allocated money for this?
Cowie?
This, Councilman Yasu, this will not cost the city any funding. The only resources that we will are in kind, and I'll check, and the staff work towards this project. So this update will not cost any funding. It is actually free technical assistance for the Atlanta Regional Commission and from staff.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the council? Ms. Cowie, a quick question. When it comes to the community engagement piece, who is going to handle that component of it?
The Atlanta Regional Commission will handle our public outreach, but locations and how we present that the outreach to the community is in assistance with the city and staff. If we are meeting by that time, we start our public outreach process and we need locations, that is what staff is required to assist the Atlanta Regional with.
Eventually, if we are still having issues in terms of COVID, are we going to come up with a plan where we'll still be able to meet that deadline?
Yes, ma'am. That is our goal.
If there are no other questions from the council, we will then open it up to the public for public comment. And Mr. Hadlock?
Yeah, thank you. I know in the past we've had public citizens ad hoc committee for the revision of comprehensive plan. I'm just wondering if there's if that's something that Ms. Cowie is taking into consideration, or are you just going to do sort of town hall kind of things, or how are you going to engage the public? I guess that's all to be seen, but just in a way, I think it was kind of good to have the ad hoc committee. Of course, you get a lot of that stuff going, but maybe ad hoc committee with somebody from P&Z on it, or you really want to get the citizens who really care about this stuff involved in it. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Mr. Hadlock, and are you also referring to where we had stakeholder meetings when we did the plan before, where we actually had the meetings and then opened it up also to the public?
Yeah, well, when I was on, actually right before I was on the council, when we redid the comprehensive plan, or we did the new comprehensive plan, we actually had an ad hoc committee of citizens to represent the citizens to the council and to be involved in the process with the council. I don't know how we did the last one. When was the last one? I thought that was the last one, but that would have been around 2007, 2008.
So, and what we will do is, as part of this process, we will make sure that we include stakeholders who are all the people that you mentioned, but make sure that in terms of that overall engagement, that we make sure that we have it open to the public. And Ms. Cowie, if I'm missing anything, typically you have that combination where you do have the stakeholders as well as the open meetings for the community. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are to identify and confirm steering committee members within 30 days of signing this agreement. And of course, we will reach out to the mayor and city council to provide us with recommendations who they feel will be beneficial on this committee, along with any of our representatives from our planning and zoning board.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Ms. Cowie. Hopefully that answered your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no other public comments and there are no other council comments, we will proceed to the next agenda item, which is agenda item G7, to award weekly curbside recycling collection services to the lower bidder, Latham Home Sanitation. And Mr. Gomez, would you please take this agenda item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item to bring back weekly curbside recycling services. We issued an RFP back in July with proposals due back in mid-August. We had two companies, two respondents, Latham Home Sanitation and Waste Pro. Included in the item are the rates that they both provided. Really and a little bit of a difference between the two of them regarding how and what type of service they would provide. But we are recommending that we proceed with Latham They do have a little bit of a lower rate for one. Second, they're a smaller firm, family owned. I've been in the waste management recycling business for several decades. They currently have a few other smaller customers. They are, I have to say, about one of the most exciting firms I've dealt with in terms of what they do and the service that they're looking to provide. They've been anxiously awaiting us to proceed with this item. The service that they're looking to provide, again, will be weekly curbside collection to approximately 1,100 units in Clarkston. Again, this is our single family neighborhoods and some of the small commercial entities, such as the businesses, for example, along North Indian Creek Road, along East Ponce, Montreal Road. They will not be providing curbside recycling because it's very difficult in the multifamily and the apartment complexes mainly, but the service will be provided to essentially currently where Waste Management currently has a container and where Waste Management performs the weekly curbside trash collection. Latham would be providing the service on Mondays, same as the garbage collection, just to make it easier for folks to remember that it's all on Monday. And therefore we don't have trucks kind of driving through multiple days of the week, but pretty much all on one day of the week. Their service is designed a little bit differently than what has been provided in Clarkston by our previous provider. And their service is a smaller container combined with their methods, their efforts, and our efforts jointly to educate, to advocate, to encourage recycling, mainly of paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard, to be utilized in the 18-gallon container that they will provide as part of the service. Previously, we had a 65-gallon cart, which is what Waste Pro provided in their proposal at over $2 more per unit. What we have found based on the recycling, I guess, performance activity here in Clarkston from our residents based on Waste Management's service provision, their collection, what they told us is that a significant amount of what they were collecting in recycle bins could not be recycled. It was, for lack of a better term, contaminated, as folks would either include some trash or insert items that they thought could be recycled. For example, a lot of people believe pizza boxes can be recycled. Most of your pizza box cannot be recycled because of the grease and leftovers from the food, the pizza that's inside. And glass as well. They were collecting glass. There were some residents who believed that you could put the glass in the container. So unfortunately, most of what was collected was ending up in the landfill. If discussions and reviewing Latham's operation, they are very, very committed. They have a fairly high compliance, meaning that quite a bit of what they're collecting, and I don't know the exact percentages, but I recall Mr. Jarvis, who is on the call, stating that it was, well over half of what they were collecting, upwards was actually good recyclable material. Recycling as a whole has changed significantly. When I mentioned what I'm about to mention to many residents, most of them were unaware of the significant changes, and I've shared them at various council meetings in the last year, that recycling unfortunately took a gigantic hit in 2018 into 2019, when most of the recycled material collected in our country stopped being sent overseas, essentially, to China, Malaysia, India. Mainly China stopped receiving quite a bit of it because of such a high contamination rate. So many cities, many recycling companies that were collecting either stopped collecting recycling or continued collecting it in hopes of storing it and eventually having a company that would somehow, either sell it or reuse it. In many instances, that did not occur. So what ended up happening throughout 2019 and into the current year, of course, we're in a different time period with COVID, but most of a very large percentage of recycling ends up in the landfill. When I've inquired of several other companies, they have stated that unfortunately, other than paper and certain plastics, almost everything else ends up in the landfill. And if paper is mixed with what folks believe can be recycled, such as certain glass or even materials that may have had food in them, it is not recycled. It ends up in the landfill. But we are proposing that we do bring it back. We would be charged $5.25 per unit, a monthly rate. That would increase our entire, both our waste management and recycling rates that we pay to just under $17, which is a little bit less than what we were paying. Well, a little bit more than what we were paying waste management. However, waste management, if the council recalls back in the presentations last year, for those of you that were on the council, waste management's proposal was to increase to nearly $19 for the recycling, with essentially little solution as to how to improve and encourage better recycling practices. The key to positive recycling is, again, to inform, advocate, and educate all our residents as to what can be recycled, what to put out, and in what method, and just continue to reiterate the processes and how to best recycle. So we are confident that we're able to do that. Interestingly enough, I haven't received, I wouldn't consider it to be that many, but probably about anywhere from about 15 to 20 calls in the last 11 months about when, what's happening with recycling. And certainly there are some ardent folks who have continued to recycle. They are taking their items to the locations in the area. I think a lot of them take it to the DeKalb Farmers Market down off of Ponce. So there have been people who have been continued to do that, but I was expecting that we would have received a lot more calls, but that really doesn't neither here nor there, as the cliche goes, as to the desire to restart recycling. Clearly, there are many residents who would like to see that again, because it can be a significant benefit certainly to the environment and reusing and repurposing materials that can be reused. I included the bid from Latham is in the agenda item, and I will ask Mr. Jarvis, who should be on the phone. Rick, are you on?
I'm here.
Go ahead, Rick, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and what you're going to be doing for us.
All right. Well, my name is Rick Jarvis. I'm the vice president. We are a family-owned company, as Robin said. We're 4 generations working in our family business. Small cities are what we really love. That's what we go after. And we kind of call ourselves the specialists in recycling because we do a great job of giving everybody the small bins. The small bins allow us to monitor what's in those bins and try to educate the residents on what they're doing wrong versus just hauling it to the landfill. That's not what we want to do. We do what the big companies don't want to do. Now, Waste Management is your garbage hauler. I work hand in hand with them already on contracts. I do recycling for the big companies that they do garbage. I do recycling for cities like you, City of Avondale, City of Lawrenceville, Georgia, City of Madison, Georgia, that do their own, that have a different trash company, but I'm the one that does the recycling. We appreciate the opportunity as a family to have an opportunity to come in and show you what we can do. and I'll be more than glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rick. Wanted to add, I think what Rick, as he said, being a family-owned business, we believe there will be certainly a significant willingness, a little bit more personalized service that I think we have not had, but certainly a company that gives every indication that they're looking and willing to make this program to be as successful as it possibly can be, but certainly the most successful recycling likely that Clarkston has had. Madam Mayor, that is the presentation for this item.
Can I ask a question, please? This question is for Mr. Latham. If you're picking up the recyclables and you notice a pattern at an address, will you let them know individually and offer additional education?
Yes, we will give them we start off usually leaving a flyer with them to tell them that they're contaminated and what their problem is. Okay. And the driver you're going to get for this city is a 30-year veteran for me. So he knows how to handle customers and how to let them know what they're doing wrong and what they're doing right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If I may just interject quickly, I failed to mention that in the educational materials that will be distributed, we are planning to put them in various languages. Exactly how, what language folks will request, we will do our best to do that, but we will certainly advertise that we will likely have the recycling information available in at least 7 languages, probably as many as 10, because it is going to be just a one-page flyer that will be distributed with essentially the do's and don'ts, what's recyclable, what is not, what to avoid, and how to, help this be as successful as it can be.
Okay, last question. Do we have an anticipation date to start this service?
I believe it's January 1, and our plan is to starting, I believe it's next Monday, we will have a driver who will be running your city to learn it. We train ahead. We don't wait till the day we start. So that driver will be coming through and watching what Waste Management does and learn the route so that when he starts January 1, he is familiar with your city.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday, January the 4th.
January the 4th?
Okay.
I just got a quick question. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilmember Johnson.
How long is the contract?
We are anticipating that it would be a 3-year agreement.
Okay, so we'll revisit it every 3 years?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. I just was curious why they don't take glass.
I can explain that one. Glass is the only recyclable that breaks. And when it breaks, it contaminates everything else that it's mixed with. That's the number one reason. All the processors have quit allowing it to come in.
It's the downside of the change from a few years ago to single stream recycling. Right. And I don't know if Clarkston ever had compartmentalized recycling, but years ago in my first city, we compartmentalized the containers that were used. So you separated out the glass from the plastic and from the paper, and then the trucks had compartments in them as well. That became over time very, very expensive when the market started, the recycling market started changing. And for example, as I put on the screen now, from the Mr. Jarvis's and Latham's proposal, revenue sharing, the last paragraph on the screen, current market conditions for single stream recycling commodities are minus $60 per ton. That means it costs $60 to dispose of 1 ton of recycling. A decade ago and prior, At least when I was in Clearwater, Florida, we were getting about $300. We were selling recycled materials for $300 a ton. The reason glass was taken out is because the cost of glass increased significantly because of the market changes related to what Mr. Jarvis said, but also just the cost to separately store, to separately collect it, keep it from breaking, and then storing it somewhere physically in the yard for a company to come and pick it up. So it just really, the cost was exorbitant. And likely the reason why today, or in the last couple of years, and DeKalb County has several locations where you can go and deposit glass in specific bins. And they have agreements with one specific vendor that comes and takes all the glass, and that's their market, and that's what they do. But I'm not aware of any that do any curbside that includes glass. I would be very surprised, and I don't know, Rick, if there are any still around that you're aware of, but that's certainly a.
There's one city, Decatur, Georgia, but they run a whole separate crew to pick up glass. In other words, it doubles the cost.
Right.
In other words, they run a truck that does nothing but picks up glass at the curb. That's all it does.
Mr. Gomez, I think you mentioned something at the end that DeKalb County does. Probably not this year, but I think we certainly need to consider having a collection bin in the city, or at least a few of them, or if possible. And I think we could certainly, instead of our residents going to DeKalb County and dropping their glasses, maybe they could drop them here in the city. And I think this would be something we could consider in the future. Sure. But I am also concerned that I'm not sure how a small container will be able to be helpful with in terms of alleviating contamination. I really am. I am certainly sure we're gonna have contamination at the beginning. I really strongly encourage the Mr. Jarvis that it's going to require lots of education, and also considering, hopefully Mr. Jarvis know about the diversity of our city. A lot of our residents, it's not just ignorance, but they just don't come from background of places where they recycle. So it's going to be it's going to be a little bit of challenge. So I hope you are ready for that as well.
Yes, sir, we are. Well, we've learned from the bigger cans, when you give somebody a large can that didn't ask for it, it became garbage can number 2. Is what it became. With the 18-gallon bins, Decatur uses 18-gallon bins, Avondale uses them, Sugar Hill, Georgia, some of the largest recycling cities in the state of Georgia, which I've all done, is our guys are able to visually look and see what's in that bin. Versus a 65, we don't know what's in the bottom of it. We've had guys we've seen people put gallons of oil because it's recyclable. They think it's recyclable, and they put it in the bottom of a 65-gallon can.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Mr. Jarvis, for those comments. And Councilmember Hopkins, you have a question.
Yes, I'm just wondering if you recycle paperboard like cereal boxes?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And I just checked on the in the packet, it said you recycle all plastics 1 through 7.
Right now we do. The facility we take them to takes them all. And that is always subject to change. But right now, Pratt Industries, which is in Conyers, Georgia, they do take plastics 1 through 7. So we take it if they'll take it.
Are they actually recycling all of them, or are they just recycling the ones,
Here's what they do. Plastics 1 and 2 definitely have a value. 3 through 7, the market's very up and down. But because they are a cardboard mill, they mill cardboard down there. They have a furnace that they use fuel pellets, which is wood chips. And if they can't sell a plastic, they use it as a fuel chip to go with their wood. to make the cardboard. So it gets used as a renewable source, just in a different way.
Excellent. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beverly, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Are there any other comments from the council? None. I have a question in terms of follow through for ongoing education, because that was
Yes, ma'am.
something that we had some issues in terms of our previous provider, that with our community, it's going to be important that we have periodic updates in terms of training and education.
Okay.
So is that part of something that you can also do?
Well, what we try to do is an ongoing education. We keep in our trucks those leaflets and those flyers that have what's allowable and what's not. So that if our driver and our toter on the back see that we have an issue, they're constantly trying to educate. Because I know it's an ongoing thing. It's a challenge. It always is. But Robin said it, we're family owned. We care more than the big companies. We personally come out as owners and try to take care of those problems and knock on those people's doors.
No other questions from the council? Then we'll open it up for public comment from the community. And so, Mr. Hadlock.
He's muted.
You're still muted. Mr. Gomez, could you unmute? There you go.
You hear me now?
Yep.
I didn't understand about the plastics. I know Waste Management was throwing just about all plastics away except for milk jugs, I think. And it sounded to me like you're saying they were using them for fuel.
They will use it if they do not have a market that will buy that plastic or that will take it from them, because it is something that will fuel their furnace. They have a furnace where they boil the fibers from they make cardboard. So they mix it. They bring wood chips in. You see a lot of people do these chipping, these mulching. They use that as a fuel for their flames, but they will also mix in any plastics they can't sell. So they'll put it in there. They're constantly, the market changes every single month.
So what is the pollution control on the emissions from that plastic burning? That'd be my concern. I'd rather put it in the garbage dump. I'd really rather not use it at all if I can avoid it. But
their system is all approved by EPD and is all set up. They got filters, everything, and all they do is boil the water. They're not an incinerator. They boil the water with the flames. That's what they do.
And I want to say, I think you're giving us much better. You're being much more informative than Waste Management was when they came to us. I like Waste Management, but as far as recycling is concerned, I felt like they really let us down. And for instance, we never had the degree of information that we're getting from you now from Waste Management. I think that it's going to be really important to make sure that people keep reinforcing with people, how clean something needs to be when you recycle it. I would assume you would want your plastics to be washed out, rinsed out, washed out.
Yes, like them clean. Yes, sir.
So people kind of need to know that. Waste Management never said that, and I just throw an empty peanut butter container for a long time, into the recycling bin, and it probably got thrown out because it had still remnants of peanut butter on the side of it. So that's the kind of thing that people need to know, because nobody wants something they want to recycle to go into the garbage. Thank you.
Well, and the big companies, a lot of people probably don't realize this. The large companies that are publicly traded that own all the landfills, that's how they make their money, is they bury in garbage. That's why Waste Management is #1 in the world. They own more landfills than anybody in the world. Mm-hmm. So where we don't own a landfill. We're a family business that try to do well what they don't do.
Right. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Padlock. And out of curiosity, Mr. Jarvis, do you have any videos that you make available? That might be something that might be beneficial that we can let our residents see in terms of properly cleaning and taking care of their recycle before putting them in the bins.
I know Pratt Industries has got some things that I can get from them. I've got a young lady down there that does a lot of the municipalities. She serves on Atlanta Recycles and a lot of committees down there. And usually I'll reach out to her to get what you're asking for. She's good at that.
Thank you very much.
And Madam Mayor, this is Robin again. And I don't think I mentioned it too much to Mr. Jarvis, but one idea is that we probably, because it doesn't have to be terribly expensive, but it'll be a little bit of creating our own video, possibly that we.
And we'll help with that.
Yeah, and in a couple of languages that might be quite helpful. Listening to the conversation and thinking of what we can really get to folks, and that might be one, and certainly. Utilizing Segal Radio, et cetera, and the organizations that are out there. One of the things that we need to be mindful is that the information certainly needs to get to our single family homes and the small commercial. It's good for everybody to understand and be familiar, but as I stated, we just don't have a program yet for our apartment complexes, although there are a couple that do have some recycle bins that their waste haulers come and remove. I know when I lived at Avalon, there were 4 or 5 recycle containers there. We just need to be mindful of that. But certainly I think we come up with our own, and as Mr. Jarvis said, they'd be willing to help. I think to include, their truck and their drivers would be very helpful as well. So we will.
Yes, we will. We will, yes.
Jarvis, for your presentation and all the information that you provided to our community. We really appreciated that.
Well, Madam Mayor and Council, we appreciate y'all, and we thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. So hearing no other public comments.
Madam Mayor, we have Ms. Hood has her hand up. Susan
Okay.
Hood.
Yes, Ms. Hood.
Yes, Robin, you hit on an important word that we as a city want to continue to use, and that is recycling program, not just a recycling contract, because this is a never-ending education challenge for existing residents and for new residents. So, Mr. Jarvis, perhaps you addressed this in the materials that you presented, but I'm wondering if you might be able to give us a baseline report after a short period of time. Some citizens may have just dropped the whole idea of recycling.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think as we get out the word to people, it would be good to be able to figure out what percentages of our residents are recycling, and then perhaps some progress report about, are we getting more people recycling, and are the issues of contamination going down? Because that will give us some metrics about, are we on the right track with our program? And making sure that we get the word out that we have a new service provider, and try to have a goal to increase the number of residents who are recycling, and try to decrease the number of times that people are not able to comply with the regulations. The other thing I would recommend. Go ahead, Mr. Jarvis, you were going to say.
Oh, I just said, yes, ma'am. And sometimes it's as simple as getting somebody to start with one or two products that they can start recycling and get in the habit and then increase from there. Sometimes it's just that simple.
Right. The other thing, if we're talking about a program instead of just a recycling contract, I think in the materials that we send out to the community, we'll be telling them that we are not recycling curbside glass, but I think it would be good to put on that information where they can take their glass and that we would encourage them to do that. And if there's anything else that is not able to be recycled curbside, that we also provide information to citizens where they can do that.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
can certainly do that.
Thank you. And I
Thank you.
look forward to your service. It sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hood. If there are no other public comments and we have no other council comments, I first want to say thank you, Mr. Jarvis, for again providing the information to our community, and we look forward to working with you.
Same here. We look forward to y'all.
And so we will proceed with item number G8, which is approved GDOT Local Maintenance Improvement Grant 2021 application in the amount of $103,740 for various roads, street milling, and resurfacing projects. And Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this item, an annual program that we've participated in for the last few years as part of our kind of roads, streets, infrastructure work. We are submitting the application for this LMIG grant to help fund the cost of specifically the milling and the resurfacing of several streets, mainly Clarkston Industrial Boulevard, Vaughn Street, Carroll Park Drive, and Roger Street, mainly from Market to North Indian Creek, that will be part of the work that we are streetscape work on Roland Avenue from Market to Lovejoy, that also includes some beautification on Hill Street that connects Roland to Rogers. So we've received this grant in the past. The item lists the items that we've received in the last few years that have been used for the streetscape. And we are looking to do the same and looking for the council approval to proceed with this grant program.
Can't hear you, Madam Mayor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Are there any questions from the council?
I have a quick question, Madam Mayor. I think on the list of the projects, I saw one of the roads being included is Carroll Park. And I just want to make sure that isn't that is it a public road or is it not?
It's a public road. It's our street.
Okay. Thank you.
Can't hear you again, Madam Mayor.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
Now you can. Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay. Are there any other questions from the council? Okay. Hearing none, then we will have public comment. Mr. Hadlock. He's muted. Mr. Gomez, can you unmute him, please?
I don't have any other comment except that I wish you'd include West Smith Street. My curve has just about disappeared. But maybe next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadlock. Are there any other public comments?
Ms. Hood has her hand raised.
Thank you, Ms. Hood. Would you like to make your comments, please?
Yes, thank you. Question about Carroll Park Drive. As a public road, it does not look like it was constructed to code. Because when you drive on it, you see that the collars for the sewer lines stick up above the pavement. Was that, and I know Mr. Gomez, this is before your time, but when that development went in, my understanding is that the developer is responsible for constructing a road to code, and then the city accepts it as a public road. So do we know why Carroll Park Drive looks the way it does relative to the manholes?
Right. When I've inquired of Mr. Kaiser Engineering, and I will follow up with them, but it's our understanding that the road was not completed as you indicated, but the city accepted the road. But I will find out. That's what has been communicated to me, and as you stated, that did happen before my time. But we will find out exactly what happened, whether the developer did or did not. But it's my understanding the developer is not around. But we will find out exactly what happened.
Thank you. I would think that there would be bonds that a developer has to put forward that would cover that exact thing. Now, maybe this is ancient history, but if the city is not requiring performance bonds on developments like this, which could be called upon in when a developer.
I can tell you that we are requiring them. Whether we required it for that development, I don't know, but I'll find out.
Well, this is appears to be a textbook case of why you want those bonds.
Correct. I could not agree more.
The other thing, and this is not specifically related to this item, but I just want to add from personal experience that the intersection of Ponce and Mill, where it goes over the railroad track, is one of the most dangerous intersections I have ever seen. And I spent some time there not long ago, and I can't count on both hands how many near misses I saw. And I know that at one point there was a discussion of straightening out Northern Avenue so that it aligns with Mill as it crosses the railroad track. And if that happened, perhaps that intersection on both sides could be signalized.
Right. And there is a plan for that going forward.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Are there any other public comments? I will go back to council member. Councilman Johnson, did you have a comment?
Yes, my comment is not on this particular item, but a street. Are we doing something to draw awareness on East Ponce and Market at that intersection? We've had some accidents there, and we've gotten some complaints about the curb not being visible to drivers. And I wanted to see if you were aware of that, Mr. Gomez.
Yes. Well, no, I'm aware, and we've had a discussion with our engineer with how the design, and it's not in the actual lane of traffic, but we are, and we will likely put.
But my computer was on my lap.
So we'll actually look to add both the reflectors and other markers so people stay, don't merge over or swerve, because that's what's happening is people, it's interesting because there's a curb, as if you're approaching from east to west, you're driving on Ponce, you passed Hill Street, there's a crosswalk, and the curb is exactly in the same alignment as the next curb that has been the source of concern from some residents. So if interesting that you see one but not the other. I mean, that could be happening, and apparently, according to residents, that is happening. But I go back to the same issue with Norman Road and with the curb outs to slow the road. It's a split second, you lose, you swerve for one, you're not paying attention. I've hit a curb. I hit a curb in Decatur, but I wasn't paying attention, completely my fault, and popped a tire and had to get a new tire. So it's happened to me. It can happen to a lot of people. The reality is, as I explained to at least one resident, driving through Clarkston is very different than it was before, and vehicles will slow down. One, because the speed limits will be lowered, hopefully in early 2021 to 30 miles an hour on Ponce, on Montreal, on North Indian Creek Road, and on Church Street. And all the money that the city has invested is designed partially to slow vehicles down. You're gonna have to pay attention to not only the curbs, because you could make an argument that driving on East Ponce from Market to Brockett, it's fairly narrow. I've had some people say that, and I'm like, well, it's wide enough. It's just as wide there as it is up on Ponce where the curbings are. But we will do everything we can, obviously, to make it simpler, to make it as visible as it can be. But the responsibility is also on the drivers. We have to remember that the responsibility has to be shared, and it has to be owned by all drivers as well.
I agree with Councilmember Johnson. I think we need to put either reflector sticks or something to show the people that there is that they are heading towards an angle, or I don't know. I think I also agree with Mr. Gomez that the people need to drive slow, but it might be also a good idea to add some reflectors or some of the sticks that they put, the long ones that shows that this is a curb, so that people avoid it.
We will.
Thank you both, Councilman Yasu, Vice Mayor Yasu, and Councilmember Johnson for your comments, addition to the agenda item. Are there any other comments from the council?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Hopkins.
The work that's going to be done on Rogers Street, I know it relates to road diet for Roland Street, but is there things going to be taken to slow down traffic there as well?
That's the main reason for the work.
Okay, are there going to be tables put in or speed?
We're looking at likely no tables, likely a combination of some bulb outs with what are called chicanes. It'll be, again, forcing people to drive the speed limit on that road, which likely will be 15 miles an hour, just as it is on Roland.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I had a question as far as looking at the Rogers Street. I think that's one where we were looking at Roland and the one-ways. Is that something in terms of doing a traffic study at this point? Is that something?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten to bring that up, but that has been a brief discussion and something that we will look into as to the possibility of that. But you're right. I think we will look at a traffic study to hold a traffic study to determine if that's the feasibility, the likelihood of turning those into one-ways. Realistically, Roland could be a one-way from Market to North Indian Creek because it just the access to North Indian Creek, and then Rogers would be the one-way from North Indian Creek to Market. But I think a study will kind of give us, and we'll let engineers and traffic engineers who are experts in those fields to give us their best opinion as to their expertise as to whether that would work in that area, which it possibly could. However, it does have the impacts on the other side of Rogers and Roland between Norman and Market. However, we do have in the plans to close Roland, or eliminate the vehicular access on Roland from Norman to Market Street. So in essence, the path continues for pedestrians and cyclists, skateboarders, etc., only all the way to Market. So we'll take a look at all of that. We're actually having a discussion about it this week with the engineering firm and the designers and the surveyors to see what's the best solution for that entire area.
I would just like to say that that particular plan is concerning to me simply because Roland is bordered as being neighborhood commercial on one side and residential on the other. And it seems like we'd be taking traffic off the neighborhood commercial street and driving it onto a strictly residential street that is NR1 on both sides. And so that's why I was concerned. I didn't want us to be taking traffic away from the more commercial side of it and putting it onto the residential side. I'd like to see both of them slowed down and both made pedestrian friendly, bicycle friendly. But I definitely don't want to close one and drive the traffic into the residential streets.
So you were referring to Roland from Norman to Market.
Right.
Got it.
I also got a quick question. Madam Mayor, to Mr. Gomez. So I see something that says that the $164,500 exceeds the 30% required LMIG match. What does that mean?
Well, we have to, no, what we're contributing exceeds what we're required to contribute. We're only required to contribute 30%.
And my other question is, so has this grant already been approved?
No, that's what this item is for.
Okay. All right. So we're going to apply for this.
Correct. You will be approving next week our application to, in other words, to apply for this grant.
And how likely is it that we will get the grant approved?
From what I've been told, about 100%.
Okay. That's good. Thanks.
Are there any other comments from the council? Hearing none, and we've already had our public comments, we will proceed to item G9, which is approve allocating any and all CARES Act funds that will not otherwise be spent by December 2020. Rental, mortgage, and utility payments, assistance relief to avoid returning unspent funds to DeKalb County. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And we will not return any. We will be spending the entire CARES Fund money. As of right before this meeting started, we are at adding for the rental from today, that what was processed today, we are at about just over 950,000 of the 1.443 million. That excludes all of the items that we've discussed at the prior work sessions and meetings for the internet connectivity, the COVID testing, the food assistance, those items that we've discussed before, where the allocations were up to 50,000 for internet connectivity, 60,000 for food, 80,000 for the testing, 90,000 for the childcare. All of those will take us, and the way that the rental and the utility have continued these last couple of weeks, we will utilize all of this certainly before December 20th. There's nothing that would prevent us from doing that. We will likely approach just on rental assistance by the end of this week at 750,000. of the 1.4 million. And approximately 300,000 are for the programs that I mentioned. We had planned on using some of the CARES funding for payroll expenses. Likely that will only be for the hazard pay that we have provided for police and public works. And there's an item after this one related to that, but we will certainly utilize all of this money. I don't see any other way. We actually will likely run out with more folks asking particularly for rental assistance from the way just the requests have been coming in and what we've been processing. And so I don't see any issue with this. If we were to have anything left over, which is what a lot of other cities are doing, we can simply allocate it to police payroll, just to general police payroll for the current year. But it is highly unlikely that that will happen. But we will certainly keep you posted weekly on our my weekly update. But we have currently 14 MOUs for food, workforce, the testing, and the childcare with 11 different agencies and organizations. So we will use all of that and probably a little bit more. And so far we've only had three requests for reimbursement, but the rest we will conclude over the next few weeks as soon as those agencies provide, again, their invoices and copies of bills, et cetera. So I see no issue not exhausting all of this by the 20th.
Actually coordinating and making sure that the funds are being allocated to our community. We have to be extremely mindful during this COVID time. Our community is suffering, and the fact that we are able to provide some type of relief to them is great. And I'm glad that the council was able to approve many of the programs to do that. So it is imperative that we always remember during this time that our community is going through and suffering in terms of loss of jobs, people who have actually been hospitalized because of COVID. And so with this, we are doing our part in terms of making sure that we keep our community strong. So with that, I will allow comments from our community, from our council. Are there any updates or changes that you would like to add or questions?
I got a quick question because, I know this is going to happen, especially with the workforce development that we were very slow in terms of advertising it, and I just started seeing advertisements for the workforce development probably for the last month only, but we passed this in September. And at this point, I really see that it's not gonna, and that's the one that could have helped a lot of people actually support themselves instead of, and I do understand we need to continue helping with rent, but the idea for that money was to help people so that they could actually be able to pay their rent if they could get some training. But I really feel that's not going to happen, and I'm a bit concerned and actually not really happy about that one. But anyway, I just want to see, has there been any organization that actually is willing to work on this, even at the last minute?
We have an agreement with Friends of Refugees for workforce that we've had for about a month. So, and that one was advertised just the same as all the other ones were.
We can't hear you.
Are there any other questions from the council?
And I got a second question is, so the city council allocated for rental and mortgage assistance $450,000, but we already exceeded that money by. And I have no problem with it, but I think it would have been better to communicate with the council first, even with email, and just get a consensus instead of just go ahead and spending that exceeding by $200,000.
Mr. Vice Mayor, that's been provided to the council every week, the updates on that. Every single week that's been provided with all of the details as to where the money went and the amounts and the number of recipients.
I know, I see it, but what I'm saying is the request to exceed the $450,000, I've never seen it unless I didn't see them email.
It's been in the weekly updates as to what we've been doing. And also what the council approved was in the last item, the contingency of nearly $400,000 to be used in the above categories. So in all the other CARES expenditures that were initially approved.
So your question, Vice Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the council?
This is Councilman Carroll. I would just like to thank the city manager and the staff for processing these rental applications so quickly. I know that other communities in Atlanta have had more difficulty with the processing than Clarkston has. So I appreciate the good work that's been done in this. I think it's been very helpful to avoid the evictions that would as otherwise has happened in other areas of Metro Atlanta. So I do appreciate this, and hopefully this program can continue through December 20th, and possibly if another stimulus bill passes, we can continue it through the new year as well.
Councilman Carroll. And then that's something that, to Vice Mayor Yasu's point, we need to start thinking about how we're going to do some more workforce development for our community beyond just the CARES Act money. So that's something that we might need to really think about what we can do going forward, because you can tell by the amounts that we're seeing, we need to do something for our community. Okay. From a public comment perspective, Mr. Hadlock, did you have something that you would like to say?
Unmuted? Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
No, I think it's great. I appreciate all the help that's been given. I'm sure it's been keeping our staff busy, but I appreciate it. Thank you, Robin.
Mr. Hadlock, are there any other public comments? Hearing no additional public comments and no council comments, we will move to item 10, which is approve allocating CARES Act fund for an additional 5% hazard COVID-19 pay for all police and public works employees back to March 16th through at least December 2020. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Madam Mayor and Council. This is a request to extend or to increase the hazard pay that we have been providing police and public works. Really a request that we've seen emanate from what other cities, other governments have been doing, providing larger just compensation during this time for staff, specifically police and public works. So I wrote in the item that we are currently, it would be an additional $45,000 that again would come out of the CARES Act funds that again we had originally contemplating spending for all of payroll, which listed in the list included in the item, it's not numbered, but the item regarding payroll other for $260,000 that we will likely not be utilizing. We had $50,000 for the payroll 5% hazard pay. But we are, requesting that really utilize just a small portion of that payroll to compensate, again, up to the 10% for our police and public works during the time that the CARES money is available. So from March the 16th through December 20th.
Questions from the council regarding this agenda item?
Madam Mayor, I just want to say, first, I want to say thank you to our police department and public works. When I made the proposal to give our police and public works that 5%, we didn't even know we were going to get any CARES Act money. And thanks to the city manager, I asked him to give us the numbers. And at that point, we were not sure if we will be able to support it, but we felt like the city will be able to support 5% raise. And I definitely support the idea of raising it to 10%. We did consider 10% at that time, but we felt like it could hit our budget, especially if the pandemic, as we expected, stayed longer. So I definitely feel this will be another great boost for our police department and public works. That's all I want to say.
Council members, are there any other comments?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I have a yes.
Yes, Councilman Hassan.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Gomez. I mean, you said that's a retroactive from what time?
From March the 16th.
From March the 16th.
Yeah, back to March 16th when we started the 5% pay.
So is that enough until December for the police, or is that enough money for them?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's an additional approximately 45,000 that in order to go from the 5% to the 10% for a total of about 90,000 is what we will spend from March the 16th to December 20th.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And Mr. Gomez, that is for the time that they work, correct?
Yes. So this additional, currently the 5% that we're requesting to go to 10% has been paid only for hours actually worked. So if an officer, and we've had some officers who became ill, as well as public works over the last 9 months, we did not dock their pay. We did not charge sick leave to any of them. But again, this 5% was only when they were physically working. So if they came and worked police their regular 12-hour shift, those 12 hours, they received the 5% for those 12 hours. If an officer left after 8 hours, they didn't feel well, whatever the case may be, then the 5% was only on the 8 hours that they were actually working on the job. So for public works, they've been working varying shifts and not a full days, everyone. They've only been paid for the actual hours that they were physically working. And
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, and Assistant Chief Hess has some additional data regarding what I mentioned a few minutes ago about what other cities have been providing. AC Hess, are you on?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So just to give you an update, the City of Clarkston Police Department was the only department in the entire DeKalb County that did not go on rotating administrative days off. Most of the other agents, or all the other agencies in DeKalb County, the command staff and CID were rotating days off. Our command staff and CID has been in the city assisting with patrol from day one of COVID-19. Doraville Police Department passed passed a measure. All their officers received $3,500 after taxes from the top down. Chamblee PD passed an order where their officers received $1,700 a month for the months of October, November, and December to kind of compensate them back pay from the beginning of COVID-19. DeKalb County, if you remember, they started off with, they were accruing, their staff that was working the days they worked, they were accruing time and a half pay plus time and a half leave accruements for annual leave. About 6 months after the shutdown, originally in March, April, they backed that off to the staff that was physically working the day's work. They were receiving an additional 15% pay, no cumulative leave time, in addition as hazard pay. Decatur PD has not reached back out to me on what they've received, if anything, nor has Avondale, or I know Avondale Estates has not received anything in hazard pay. So just to kind of give you guys a retrospect, we're greatly appreciative of the 5% early on, and any additional will be greatly appreciative moving forward as well.
Thank AC Hess, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Mayor. I do want to reiterate what the Assistant Chief said, is that the command staff, so the Chief Hudson, Assistant Chief Hess, and Lieutenant Haygood, as well as the rest of the department, have really, from anything that I could say, really gone above and beyond to make sure that shifts were covered. From being out on the road, 3 of them, to simply responding to calls to incidents during this time frame. And really that's how it's been since I've been here. But I think a little bit of that is my fault because I'm out there as well. I have no hesitation to jump in and help out. I'm not going to tell them, what to do all the time, certainly in a situation, but that's what we do. Is we've been certainly helping each other out. And my role as the manager is obviously to ensure first and foremost our staff's safety. And so we've been doing that this entire time. But at the same, as Assistant Chief Hess said, they've been really performing, I think, even at rates higher than our neighboring cities to ensure that we continue to be as safe and secure a city as possible. So without really what we've done, and we really do appreciate the council for bringing this up early on and for approving it early on, we feel this is the right thing to do going forward. And as the chief said, Assistant Chief said, very appreciative of, from my perspective, I really prefer that. And, instead of when it comes for myself, I'd rather see that the budget goes to the staff than to myself. I mean, I feel I'm compensated fairly enough, and I have no issues and no concerns with that. But I feel much better that we can budget and provide this. And of course, the CARES money has helped, but certainly even going forward that we continue to provide this. But this retro would just be this one time. Again, that would be paid out completely out of the CARES Act money that we've received.
Vice Mayor Yasu.
Madam Mayor, I think in light of the information that we received, the fact that other municipalities have offered also pretty much about 15 to 20%, I could just estimate from the numbers that Assistant Chief was giving us. Even though we might not be able to retroactive it, I think if there is a consensus with the council, I would propose that we increase that rate 15% from between now to the end of till the end, on top of the 10%.
So you want the 10% and then what we've already allocated. And then from
Yes.
now until the December 20th, an increase.
Make it 50%. Yep.
And that's in consideration for the council. Okay. Yes.
That would just be, considering we're going to pass it next week, then the 20th would just be 2 more weeks. So 15% for 2 more weeks.
It still helps.
Bringing up that point. Are there any other comments from the council? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Hadlock, public comments. Would you like to make a comment at this time? And is he unmuted?
Yes, I have no comments on this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any other public comments?
Madam Mayor, we have Ms. Susan Hood who has her hand up.
Yes, Ms. Hood. Is she unmuted?
Sorry. He's unmuted now.
Okay.
I just want to say how proud I am of our elected officials, our public safety members, and our administrative staff who recognize that our community needs help and has offered that help in such a wonderful way. And to just say that as a small city, we are trying to do right by our citizens, by our employees. And we always need to remember that we have to take care of the caretakers. And that includes the police and staff. So thank you very much for stepping up for our city and its residents and caretakers.
Comments, Ms. Hood. That's what it's all about. And again, it's the community. And so it is so good to make sure our greatest resource in terms of the city is our staff. And so they are our customer service. They are our ambassadors for our community. And it's great that we are doing something to make sure that they're there to serve our community. So thank you for those comments. And thank you, Council, for everything that you're doing to make sure that we're there to help our community. If there are no other questions or comments, we will proceed to item G11, which is approve allocating CARES Act funds to upgrade city facilities to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think this came out of from a couple of the council members are looking to see what else we could do in terms of additional safety measures. And in the agenda item, I included some of the items that we have discussed and what we are currently doing, the additional purchase of equipment to, and I don't know the actual, excuse me, terminology of the cleaning that's being done, but we do have several machines that simply spray all surfaces in all of our facilities, for one. Obviously, in addition to the daily cleaning of every facility, including the restrooms, everything that an employee may touch, in addition to signage that we have added at all of our facilities, to folks to social distance, to wear masks, to use sanitizer. We are adding touch-free, looking to add the touch-free from the soap dispensers and towel dispensers in the restroom facilities. We have added touch-free hand sanitizing stations, including a couple that were at the community center yesterday that we provided for them. And we continue to look at other measures that we've utilized, including the alternative scheduling, and certainly keeping folks visiting, including those that have been required to attend city court. We're not mandating that they attend court. We have rescheduled quite a few folks, but certainly keeping that number as low. A few of the other, we've retrofitted a few offices. Most of our spaces, particularly at City Hall, already were, had the protective screens or protective plastic, not glass, but the plastic. And we added that here to City Hall Annex. So when our administrative assistant, Ms. Usher, returns, she will have, very minimal contact at such time that we reopen. But other measures that we can look to add, and just as a point of conversation, whether we were looking to possibly include an automated entrance at City Hall. I'm not sure we would be able to put one at City Hall Annex because of the size. It would require some significant essentially remodeling and reconstruction of the main entrance. But City Hall, we could install automated doors. The cost, just ballpark, probably $10,000 just to eventually, there would be no need to touch anything. When you go in, the door would open for the public. Once we reopen to the public, you'd have the automatic hand sanitizers. About the only, we could not automate bathroom doors, but we could, we've looked at making them a little bit more ADA accessible, wherein you just push the button and it opens the door rather than automatically open. So we've had these discussions with Public Works, with police, and we're open to, if there are any other suggestions, anything else that we could look to do, we're certainly open to doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Are there any questions from the council? Yes, Vice Mayor Yasu.
I'm sorry. Yes, I just want to, well, I think some of the things that I had in mind when I put this on the agenda was, is also included something that is being on the works, including the soap and dispensers and the faucets being automated. And I understand we might not be able to do like the restrooms in like the parks, and because I think those things tend to be broken easily, and I know we might not be able to use them on all the places, but I think especially in the City Hall, both City Hall Annex and main City Hall, I think we certainly need to have automated dryers, automated dispensers, soap dispensers, and also the faucets. And the other idea is the doors is obviously, I'm not asking for a big, a major retrofitting, but I think doors being easily something you can just push with your elbow that you can open, or even something as simple as that. And another thing is, I don't see a camera at the main, at the City Hall Annex. I don't see intercom. So if somebody comes to you, you don't want to even open the door, you could install an intercom there, and you could tell them, give them directions without even opening the door. That's another idea I thought we could have. So basically the idea is just to do little small things to reduce interaction with the public if we have to, like install a camera and intercom system where you could still help people. And the other one is the doors being ADA friendly, plus they could be something that you could easily open and easily close. But I certainly believe that the Public Works and the city manager knows a lot more about how you can, how can you retrofit these things so at a reasonable cost. And of course, we don't have a lot of time left. So I think we need to act on it soon if there is any that you feel like that can be done. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Questions from the council? Yes, Councilmember Hopkins.
Yeah, I really like this idea because unfortunately, this disease is not going away real quick. And we are going to need this going forward, even after the CARES money runs out. Things like the soap dispensers, you know, we could go out and buy those tomorrow. I don't think we're going to get automated doors at City Hall installed by the next 3 weeks. I mean, I would like to see them because I think it makes sense. When we do go back to live meetings, anything we can do, sadly, to avoid touching each other or things in common is going to help prevent ongoing spread. But is it feasible at this point to include that in CARES Act? That might be a question for Mr. Gomez.
Oh, we can, because all we have to do is pay for it before the 20th.
Okay. All right. I like it. Yeah. Keep staff safe, keep the public safe, keep everybody safe, because it's going to be around for a while.
You are absolutely correct. Are there any other comments from the council?
My only other thing is there's going to be some money spent to buy additional masks for the local stores. I'm still seeing a lot of people in the stores without masks. And I know in almost all other towns I go to around here, there'll be a sign on the door says this city requires you wearing a mask. If you don't have one, please ask at the counter. And they all have masks to give every customer that comes. So
we have distributed probably a few thousand masks to businesses. We'll continue to do that, but we have bought some. We are in the process. I spoke today with the county. They provided me their vendor with DEMA, the DeKalb Emergency Management, and they provided me their vendor list, but they're going to be able to provide us several thousand more masks that we will certainly distribute, and then we will likely buy. I mean, we've been buying some, but we will look to buy thousands so that we do have, the goal is probably to have 25,000 available to distribute throughout the winter and into early spring. So that's ongoing. Tomorrow, we're going to pick up, I think, 100 boxes of cleaning supplies from the Board of Health. And that's, I think, round one of several rounds. I'm not sure the size of the boxes, but we're meeting them tomorrow at 9 a.m. To do that. But yes, we're contemplating doing that, and that's what some of the money that was allocated is to buy, again, personal protective equipment, not just for staff, but certainly for our residents and visitors.
Would we have enough masks that we could have, like, every shop in town have a sign that says, if you need a mask, please ask, and we could provide those stores and
we can certainly do that as well.
Okay.
As well as the signage. We talked about the signage.
Yes,
as well.
we're working to get the sign that we will then place at every business that you must wear a mask in order to go inside.
Thank you.
I certainly agree. Thank you, Councilmember Hopkins, for raising that, because I think this is definitely the main expense that is absolutely acceptable for the CARES Act, because we can certainly stockpile. I mean, this disease is not going away, and I think we certainly need, particularly for our public work and police department, there has to be enough masks, hopefully, to last us for the next year at least. And I don't know if that will be against the CARES Act, because that is really the main one, and it's not going to hurt. And I'm pretty sure this pandemic is not going to end before the end of next year. So I think it will not hurt to have a few thousand stockpiled, and also the same with the hand sanitizers and cleaning supplies as well.
Vice Mayor Yasu, because we will I've already talked to Mr. Gomez that we definitely will make sure that we have at least 2 rounds of making sure that we do the mass distribution like we did before with the COVID task force. And so we're going to make sure in terms of not only the apartments, but making sure that we actually have the packets this time where we have the packets of 5 so that we can do those distributions within our community. Because again, to your point, this is not going anywhere anytime soon. And what we have to do is make sure that we promote socially distancing ourselves, as well as wearing the mask to protect ourselves. And so it is imperative that we provide the tools to our community to be able to do that. And we take for granted the fact that it's a cost for other people to have access to this type of material. And so with our community, it's very important that we provide them the resources when we can, such as this case. So thank you both, Councilmember Hopkins for bringing it up and Vice Mayor for your comments. Are there any other comments from the council? Okay, hearing none, we will have public comment from Mr. Hadlock. Would you please unmute his phone, please? Mr. Hadlock. You're not unmuted yet, but we're getting there. There you go.
No, I just wanted to see if we can get, can we get 4 of those accelerator hand dryers and 4 automatic soap dispensers for the restrooms in Friendship Forest? We have 4.
Well, there already are the electronic dryers. We can look for the automated faucets and the soap dispensers. We hope that they make it, but we will certainly add them to that, as well as to Milam Park for all that we stated. That's been the plan, to change all of those out. We have not opened the restrooms yet. We were really waiting, and we're hoping we will be opening the parking lot for Friendship Forest on a limited basis starting Monday, December the 7th. And of course, there'll be plenty of signage just to make folks aware that the parking lot will be open for the limited hours, essentially from 8 to 5 to start. But yeah, once we reopen, the goal is to have all of those as well at our parks, and we'll be keeping an eye on them. We've had some damage at Milam to inside the bathrooms. We actually had a door destroyed a few months ago, which has been replaced. But certainly we will extend it to that. Yes.
Yeah, I think that the trick is that you know, somehow or another, Public Works has got to have somebody lock those up outside of hours, so that people can definitely vandalize them during the park hours, and more than likely that'll happen sooner or later. But when it's outside of park hours, they definitely need to be locked up. Otherwise, right, people sleeping in them.
Yeah, no, and that's the plan certainly for Friendship Forest, and Milam does get locked. So we'll continue to do that once we reopen the restrooms.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadlock. Are there any other comments from the public? Hearing none, Councilman Hopkins, did you have another comment?
I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Gomez about his comment. What is the reasoning behind waiting until December 7th to open the parking lot at Friendship Forest, and why 8 to 5?
We just finished the contractor just finished last week all of the repairs that needed to be made, and we need to put some signage up. The reason for that is, one, because it's dark shortly after. We're also working varying shifts, so to have somebody return and close everything, we have to schedule for that. But even though it's lit, we just want to see what it looks like. We will likely, obviously, extend the hours till likely the lights are supposed to go. The lights go out 2 hours after sunset, but we've noticed that for some reason, sometimes they're coming on earlier, sometimes they're staying on later. We need to have the cell looked at. This is at Friendship Forest, But that's just as a trial basis and really related to make sure that nothing happens to those two pavilions and the restrooms in each one.
And it's just separate from this, but are we having any official opening day?
We will, but likely not until January.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Thank you, council. We don't have any other public comments, so we will proceed with our next agenda item, which is to discuss the City of Clarkston registering to become an affiliate of the AARP network of age-friendly states and livable communities. Mr. Gomez.
Well, Madam Mayor, I think I bounced this back to you.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
And Councilwoman Johnson, where this came from. But yeah, we just placed this on the agenda at your request. And we're certainly supportive of this.
Thank you very much. And I'm very excited to have on the call to talk about us being an age-friendly city. We have the Associate Director for Community Outreach, Kay Sabata, and she's going to give us information about the AARP network and how and the benefits of it for the City of Clarkston. So Ms. Sabata, are you on the call? There she is. Can you unmute her, Mr. Gomez? She's still, she needs to be unmuted.
Right, but I
may have to unmute herself.
Don't see her on the list. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There she is, right there. Hi, Miss Sabata. How you doing? Hi, Kay.
Good. How are you? Good evening.
All right.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so grateful. I've been listening in. This was such an interesting meeting. So thank you so much for inviting me, Mayor Burks and City Council. I'd like to thank you as well as the citizens and stakeholders for the City of Clarkston. I'm really excited to be joining you. My name is Kay Sabata, and I'm the Associate State Director for Community Outreach with AARP Georgia. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about joining our AARP network of age-friendly communities and livable, age-friendly states and livable communities. Am I able to share my video and a couple of slides, Mayor?
Mr. Gomez, can you put her on share?
Let me try that.
Thank you so much. Oops. Well, oh, thank you.
You're now the host or co-host.
Oh, that's dangerous. Oh my goodness. Okay, no, it's good. I promise I will behave. It's too late. It's after 10 p.m. So can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Before we get started, and I did want to, I mentioned asking the city if you would join us in our network of age-friendly communities. This was an initiative that started in 2012. AARP is an independent affiliate member of the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly cities and communities. In 2012, the first community that came on board was Macon Bibb, believe it or not, the first one in the nation. So, you know, we know how to get things done here in Georgia. I don't have to say any more than that. So I'm going to go to a quick video. It's about a minute, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Thank you. Oops, go back. I have to go back. I'll do this.
AARP is working to make communities more livable for people of all ages. But what is a livable community? In a livable community, people of all ages can find housing that is comfortable and affordable. It is also a community where residents can get where they want and need to go, regardless of whether they own a car. It's a place where people can spend time in parks and public spaces that are vibrant, safe, and healthy, so they can socialize with their friends and participate in fun activities. A livable community ensures access to needed shopping and healthcare services. It's a place where people can work or volunteer and be included in community events and decision-making. So, what is a livable community? It's one where everyone can make their city, town, or neighborhood a lifelong home.
Thank you for your patience. The good thing is that Clarkston, you're already doing this stuff. You may be calling it something else. I see your leadership nodding their head. At first you were thinking, oh my God, what is she talking about? But you are already doing this, and we want you to be part of our group. We have 6 states that have joined us, and 1 territory, and almost 500 communities and counting. And I know you're going to be asking me what those states are, and those states are Florida, Colorado, Maine, Michigan, Massachusetts, New York, and the US territory is the Virgin Islands, where I want to be right now. There are 9 age-friendly communities here in Georgia. I highlighted in this pretty blue, which is close to the blue on your website, so that you would see who your neighboring cities are in Metro Atlanta. And there's quite a few of them: Atlanta, East Point, Decatur, which came on board this summer in August, Norcross, and Tucker. And so in the video, it talked about all of these areas of livability, which you cover in your 2040 comprehensive plan. You're calling it something else, but it's the same thing. And you're working with one of our partners, the Atlanta Regional Commission, with their a livable center initiative. We're excited about that as well. And in regards to the goals that you've outlined, your 3 goals, number 1, land use is really important to you, and making sure that it's the diverse use of land use, whether it's residential, and if it's residential, it's mixed use and housing. Proud and excited that Clarkston is the first city in the state to have the first pocket neighborhood in partnership with Microlife Institute, who is one of our community partners. And the second goal is accessibility, transit-related access, so important. Whether you're you're riding or taking MARTR, walkability and bikeability, very important. And all of these elements are important to all communities, to ensure that we have a quality of life, and you get it and you're doing it. And then the third, lastly, which is also very important, is developing an inclusive community engagement process, where including your stakeholders like us at AARP. You don't know this, but you are working with us. You have our members and our volunteers and a lot of our stakeholders. We're working together, but we would love to formalize a partnership with you so that we know that we're working together directly. What does that look like? How do you become an age-friendly community? It's really easy. We don't want to make this difficult. We know that you're really busy. The application is free. There's a membership application on our website at arp.org/livable. We have a lot of all of our members' applications and action plans are on display. It's full transparency. So it's the letter from the mayor and your application. Happy to work with you on that, like I have with our other communities. In the 2-year timeline with your action plan, we recommend that you submit your comprehensive plan. We don't want to create more work for you. We know that you're doing that. We want to be of service and work with you closely and see how AARP can help you improve the quality of life for our friends and family members and our neighbors. And we have a lot of way to do that, whether it's through grant opportunities like our Community Challenge Grant. One of our Community Challenge Grant winners this year was Life Cycle Building Center, and they are going to be installing 10 accessible garden beds and 7 free pantries up in Clarkston. And the goal is to address food insecurity for our refugee communities and low-income citizens. The other is a partnership that we have with DeKalb County government through their Human Services Department, where they're providing seniors through Experience Corps to be tutors and address the educational literacy. So we're working with you, and we would love to work with you formally. If you have any questions, my contact information is on the screen, and Mayor Burks knows how to get a hold of me. She's also serving on our advisory council. And lastly, when we talk about age-friendly, we're not talking about old people and seniors. We're talking about all ages. So it's important that we have safe, for example, safe and accessible streets. We have sidewalks, so whether you're a 5 or an infant in a stroller, with your pet on a scooter or a bike or in a wheelchair, that you're able to get to where you gotta go safely. Thank you so much for your attention and for inviting me again.
And also, can you talk about the volunteers that we'd have access to?
Yes, yes, I could talk forever. There's so much that we do, and I know you're busy, but thank you again for the opportunity. We have over 700 volunteers in Metro Atlanta, and it may be more than that. And they do so much to help us from right now. We've all had to pivot with doing everything online. They're assisting with our Community Connections, which is a platform that we created because of COVID, because the social isolation is real. There are a lot of people who are isolated, who are caregiving, who are at home doing tutoring for their kids, and those people need help and resources. They do workshops on fraud and scams, because that's another big thing that is an issue. We also do sponsorships. We would love to, consider sponsoring one of your opportunities there in Clarkston that is multi-generational or senior focused. And small business. Small business is very important to us. We like to remind folks that it's not just the millennials that are out there being the entrepreneurs. The fastest demographic of entrepreneurs are adults that are 50 plus and are women. Women of color are the fastest group of entrepreneurs, and we're out there supporting them, providing resources and also providing funding. And we have nearly 38 million members in the nationwide, and over 1 million in Georgia. So we have a lot of resources that we can assist with in your community, and look forward to working with you.
Anna. And I think she just walked away. Councilman Johnson, I didn't know if you wanted to make any comments at this time.
I did not. I just wanted to add that with the new developments that we had going on in Clarkston, I thought this was an operative moment to take, to at least explore. So I'm glad, Madam Mayor, you sent out the information today, so everyone will have time to look over these things, because I thought it was just an asset that we were offering the seniors in our area, as well as, like Ms. Kay said, a lot of other age groups as well. So I think it's a great opportunity for the city of Clarkston.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson. And remember too, that our seniors are caregivers for our children and our grandchildren, you know, for whatever reason, their parents aren't there to be with them every day. So they're taking care of our children and are having to raise them. And that's a major burden on a lot of them that are on fixed income.
Thank you. For the council members, are there any questions?
I would just like to say how much I appreciate and completely support the program. The accessibility of Clarkston to seniors is 100% the reason why I'm living here. It was part of the plan. I'm not only a member of the AARP, I may be the only one on the council who's even old enough to say that, but I'm
What? No, you're not.
on the council, but
oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, I wrote y'all down on my Giving Tuesday list today. I'm like AARP as well, but I'm also
thank you.
84-year-old mom, and she moved here, and we had a plan. It's like, we need a community where you can. I mean, I'll drive her everywhere, but she would like a life away from me, and where she could go places on her own. And where she is now, she's quarter mile from the library and the coffee house and city hall, and not that we have in-person meetings right now, but that's exactly why we're here. And I am such a strong advocate for just allowing the possibility of car-free living. That's
yeah.
To me. That applies to a lot of different communities. That's inclusiveness on many levels and many realms.
Yes, absolutely. And so baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials, the secret is out. We all want the same thing: walkability, you know, whether it's walking to the park or to the restaurant or to a concert or to your job. You know, we all want the same thing. And we're all aging. We are all aging. And I'm just aging, waiting down here to join the call. So it's inevitable. It's nothing to be afraid of. And it's a blessing. Thank you so much.
Are there any other council members that have comments?
Thank you for your membership, Councilwoman Hawkins.
Hearing none, we will open it to the public. And Mr. Hadlock, I will can we unmute Mr. Hadlock? Mr. Gomez, I think we can unshare with Ms. Sabata now. So can we?
Yeah, I can come off. Thank you. Let me do that.
And then allow Mr. Hadlock to speak at this point. Unmute him.
He's unmuted.
It's showing muted. He still has a little red microphone.
Mr. Hadlock, can you unmute yourself? Oh, there you are. There you go.
I was trying. No, I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Bless you for that.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other comments?
Bless you.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, Hearing none, and again, this is a free membership. Is that, and that's correct, Ms. Sabater, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Well, thank you again, and hopefully this is information that the council will take into consideration, and we appreciate you taking time to provide the information for us. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you, and everybody be safe. Take care.
Thank you.
And next, we are moving along. We have agenda item number 13, G13, discuss and review proposed 2021 city calendars for holidays and council work sessions and meetings. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as this was brought up by at least one council member or a couple regarding, you have in front of you the council meeting schedule proposed for 2021, which includes some adjustments. Unless otherwise noted on the calendar, our meetings will continue on Tuesdays beginning at 7 p.m. But this is just if there are any changes, anything you would like to do. I just included these from really the last year and the current year since I've been here. So typically in January, we had only had one meeting, but I'm proposing that we just back things up or have a work session the first Tuesday in January, which is the 7th, and then the council meeting followed on, the 7th is a Thursday because January 5th is the election. So that we move the work session to January 7th and then have the council meeting on the 12th. And then really no other changes in March. Similarly, we would have the council meeting on the 4th due to the election on March the 2nd, which will be an election for our vacant city council seat. And then continuing again the last Tuesday of the month with the work session, with the following week, the council meeting. In June, we backed this up by a week, having our millage rate special call and public hearings on June the 22nd so that council can adopt a millage rate on the 29th. The county has a deadline of July 1, I believe, for us providing the millage rate. They had been a little bit less strict in prior years, but the county person in charge of that retired last year. So we were advised to be a little bit more, follow the county's calendar and schedule. So that's why you see that a week earlier than normal. Then in July into August, we have the council meeting moved to Thursday. We're hoping that we do have the National Night Out, which is typically the first Thursday in August. So that council meeting would be on Thursday, August the 5th, and then continuing, the next changes would not be until November. Again, due to the November 2nd election, we would have the council meeting on Thursday, November the 4th. And then to end the year of Thanksgiving is on Thursday, November the 25th. So similar to what we're doing this time around, we would have the public hearing for the budget on the 30th of November with the following week, the second budget public hearing at that council meeting. So that's, it's open to change. Anything that the council would like to see different, we can certainly do that.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Are there any changes or any comments from the council at this time? Okay. Hearing none. Are there any public comments at this time? Mr. Hadlock, do you have any comments on this item?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think this can help all of us in terms of planning, just so that we know the schedule in advance, both from a community and a council perspective. So thank you very much, Mr. Gomez.
Right. And the other, there's what the other calendar to review, discuss is really the city holidays. And this has historically, traditionally been for those days that we essentially, we have closed our city offices. So kind of the standard, both federal and state, but there have been changes over the years, but this is what the proposal is for next year, which would be days that city offices are closed and employees are not working. And so it totals from, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 total holidays, but only because New Year's Day 2022 is on a Sunday, on a Saturday. And so when a holiday falls on a Saturday, the observed holiday is the Friday before. So which technically falls in calendar year 2021. That's why it's listed as New Year's Day 2022. I know at least one council member had replied of other days, and I'm certainly amenable to changing this, leaving it as is, however you would like to proceed.
So Member Hopkins wanted to talk about Juneteenth. So Councilmember Hopkins, did you want to have any discussion about that?
I do. I would like to add it to the calendar as a paid holiday, paid day off. I has bothered me for quite some time that for the first 100 years that this country celebrated Independence Day, the preparations in the capital city were being done by slaves. And so clearly it was not independent for a huge part of the population. And as they say, nobody's free until everybody's free. Till today, not everybody's free, but we got a lot closer on Juneteenth. And I think that is a more worthy date for the city to recognize. I think it's time that we stepped up and realized that July 4th is not Independence Day for everybody, but most everybody was free by June 19th, 1885.
Thank you for bringing those points up, especially looking at how diverse our community is. Mm-hmm. Are there any other comments from the council members? Okay. Are there any comments at this time from the public? Mr. Hadlock?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadlock, and thank you, council. If there are no other comments, at this time we will proceed to item G14, which is discuss, review, propose 2021 City Council and City Senior Staff Strategic Retreat. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And we have, I guess, historically held a council staff retreat typically in the month of March. We did not hold one this year. We were scheduled for March the 20th, but which was when we the closure. So the year before in 2019, we met on the 29th. We met at the Georgia Municipal Association offices in downtown, a full day. There's a copy of a couple of the, well, this was the agenda proposed for this year's retreat. And then we have an agenda from, I think, 2 years ago. I think I couldn't find the one from 19. But anyway, I mean, this is the one for 2019. It has the wrong year. But anyway, I've received information that we would like to obviously continue. This is a very important function of the city where we can get together and discuss priorities, strategies, even the vision and mission of the city. and it's essentially a full day. How we would hold it coming up, we can drastically social distance, have it via Zoom, however the direction is, but I'm open to any potential days or anything that you would like to do.
Gomez, and I think from a council perspective, we may want to look at, I know some people were talking about dates, and it may be the February 12th date, which is a Friday. Is that something that may be amenable to council members?
It's good for me.
Councilman Hassan?
It's good for me. It's good for me.
Thank you. Councilman Carroll?
I can do February 12th.
Councilmember Hopkins?
Madam Mayor, I think she had to step away for
Okay.
a moment.
Okay.
But I can certainly reach out to her and find out February the 12th. And that date would be fine for us, for staff. We really don't have a choice.
I mean, if something else is going on, then we need to know, because we need to make sure we can work with everybody on it.
Not that I'm aware at this time that we have it. I mean, I don't have anything pressing, so February 12th seems to work fine.
Okay, and then Vice Mayor Yasu.
It will work for me as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and so we will begin looking in terms of agenda items. So I want to make sure that we take this time during December to, if you have anything outside of what was going to be discussed this year, that we make sure that we present that information so that we can make sure that we update the agenda. And so are there any other comments or questions regarding the retreat?
Madam Mayor, this is Robin again.
Yes.
Just so everybody, to remind everyone, we would have to advertise that this is happening if we were to do it as we are meeting now here on Zoom. And so the public would be able to listen in.
Yes.
I believe it would be up to you and the council whether you would want any opportunity for comment from the public. I'm always up for listening to residents and businesses, but I believe in the past we have not allowed a comment. I believe I've been told that in the past very few people have attended, but I just wanted to point that out, that it would be the public would be allowed to participate, to attend and to observe, whether that was in person or if we hold it via Zoom. Then they would be able to see what the discussion, see the agenda, and again, whether they would be allowed comment would be up to you and the council, but just so that everybody's aware.
And that's part of the reason why I wanted to make sure that we even talked about the retreat, so that we'd have ample time to plan for it, to advertise for it, and then to consider having it in a even if we did the webinar format for it, then that way that the community could still be a part of it, as well as hearing what we're saying in terms of the strategic plan. So thank you for the reminder about that. Are there any other comments from the council? No? Okay.
Yeah.
From the public, Mr. Hadlock, did you have any comments?
I think it's one thing you might do is just make sure all of you guys are on video and not show the videos of the public during the retreat, if that kind of helps.
And that's why I said the webinar format, because the webinar format allows just the people who are considered panelists to be seen.
Yeah.
You will be able to hear and from that perspective. So thank you for that comment.
Yeah,
Are there any other?
Great idea. I think it's a good idea to help you guys just focus.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, we will move to G15, which is to allow the mayor and city council members to make recommendations and approve to fill one vacant position and to reconfirm 3 expiring term positions on the Planning and Zoning Board. And that one is Ms. Cowie. So Mr. Gomez?
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
are you
ma'am.
able to hear me?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Ms. Cowie.
Yes, this is actually self-explanatory. There are 3 Planning and Zoning Board positions that will be expiring on December the 31st, 2020 of this year. And there's 1 vacant position that is still open due to us waiting for the mayor to reconfirm these positions and to recommend an individual for the vacant position that will expire December the 31st, 2022. So we have 3 board members that would like to continue their service on the board and be reconfirmed. Those 3 positions will expire again in the end of this year on the 31st. And then 1 position, of course, that we have 1 applicant that did submit his information. He was previously on the board, but he had to resign due to relocation, but he has moved back into the city limits of Clarkston.
Okay. So with that, we didn't do an application, an open application bid, did we?
We did do that. We did do that early on with the positions, but the vice mayor was acting. He was unable to actually recommend for these positions. So we actually waited for the position to be filled. Your position.
Okay. No problem. No problem. So during this time, we can go ahead and just, from a formality perspective, open it applications up. And then I can make the recommendations for the council to vote on in the January meeting. Is that correct?
You can, but to know that we will not be able to have any work done for the Planning and Zoning Board for the January meeting, because we will have to advertise any information that we have, prior to that January meeting.
Is there anything pressing on the January meeting?
No, we don't have a meeting scheduled. We don't have applications. The submittal deadline is the 16th of this month for January.
So what we can go ahead and do is open up the application process. And then we will then have proposed candidates for those positions for the January meeting. And I'll open that up to the council at this time. Did you have any comments or questions?
I have a question.
I got a.
Oh, thank you. Councilman Johnson. Councilmember
Just from the Cowie, if the people currently sitting on the board want to renew their seat, they still have to go through the application process?
Well, actually, they will not have to go. If you are requesting that they submit their information again to be reconfirmed, that is your request, but they do not, since they currently serve on the Planning and Zoning Board. They're just seeking reconfirmation of their position.
Okay. So that we're taking the applications for the empty seat, but the ones that are currently holding a position on Planning and Zoning can be reaffirmed at our discretion, is what you're saying?
At the
if that's what we want. Okay.
And the quorum of the board, yes.
Correct. Okay. Okay, that's it for me.
Madam Mayor, I got a comment.
Yes.
Thank you. And it's true that at first there were some inquiries from residents wanting to serve on the board, and we could not do it because I could not recommend them. But there was an application, I do recall, by Ms. Hood that she wanted to serve, and she already, I'm not sure why her application was not considered.
It was, I do apologize, Councilman, but it was my understanding, and if she's still on the phone, that she had withdrawn her application, but her interest is still more than welcome. We will include that in the application process for the vacant position.
I wish I could hear from Ms. Hood if she's on the line.
We'll allow her to do that after we have council comments.
And then the last thing I would ask, this is Councilman Carroll asked Shwana, do you know if the current members, the 3 current members whose terms are expiring, are interested in having their terms renewed, and have they been able to attend and participate in the P&Z meetings?
Yes, they all have been able to participate in the meetings, each meeting. Of course, one was not this year able to attend for health reasons, but every meeting that we have had, each reappointed position that is up and expiring, they have shown and said their interest to return to the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you.
One last question.
Yes.
Ms. Cowie, are you satisfied with the work that was done by that board? The 3 members that are currently sitting on the board, if that is a question you can answer.
I am satisfied with the way that the board is communicating and requesting additional information on cases that we are presenting to the public. They were to attend the Planning Commission training at the Atlanta Regional Commission this year, because that was one of our goals for the board, to receive additional education and training as far as their position is concerned, but it was canceled due to COVID this year.
To that point, in terms of the training of the existing members, have all of them gone through some type of training at this point?
All except one, well, 2, due to conflict, but the current Planning Commission trainings were attended when training was open the last time by our councilmen, by our Planning and Zoning Board members. So yes.
So
not all of them.
Okay, so that for me is a concern, because what I want to make sure is that if you are serving on that board, that if the training is available, we give you ample time to do the training, let's say within the next 6-month period, it's very critical that whatever basic training needs to happen, those people need to have it. And
I'm
as
pretty
well,
sure, yes. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
As well as when you don't have actual agenda items or applications, that maybe since that time is already allocated, that we utilize that time to have speakers or to do additional training for them, because it's never enough training that we can give them to understand how to be able to manage and do things for our zoning. So I would definitely recommend that too as a consideration. And yes, Council.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have considered those for this year. We understand that not only in transparency, but having a full understanding of the process and their duties and responsibilities. That has been discussed during the meetings and on a one-on-one basis with each one of the council members, with the Planning and Zoning Board members, I'm sorry. So that is our priority for 2021, that training and educating is our priority. So thank you for reiterating that for us.
I have a question.
Set of train, and first I'm going to go to Councilmember Johnson, then I will go to Councilmember Hopkins, and then I will do Vice Mayor. Okay.
Ms. Cowie, have we looked into that training to see if any of those were being offered via the web or Zoom or anything?
Oh, the ARC Planning Commission training was just canceled this year due to COVID. Of course, they were trying to strategize on ways to present that training back to all that registered this year, but due to COVID, that was immediately, other duties that they had to project for. But early of next year, and of course, training and education for the Planning and Zoning Board is in the Planning Economic Development budget. They will be registered once again for training and education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hopkins.
I feel like the Brady Bunch here, huh? I have two sort of procedural questions. One, how long is the normal term for P&Z members?
I could not hear you, Councilwoman Hopkins. Could you repeat that for me?
It's 4
please?
years.
4 years?
4 years. Yeah.
Okay. And what has traditionally been done with members when their term expires? If they're willing to stay, do we typically just like automatically re-up them, or do people rotate out as a matter of?
No, they do not rotate out. We've had a Planning and Zoning Board member's term that expired, and that person was presented to mayor and city council for reconfirmation, and that was done by the former mayor and the council. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So they will come and discuss their interests and their likes or their dislikes, and you ask questions, and they present their information to you.
Okay.
And they're pleased to be reconfirmed.
Okay. I would like to just say that I do think it would be the most fair to put it out there that there is seat or seats that are available and take applications, because several members of the public have come to me as well over the period. And, they're like, why can't I just appoint somebody? And, I think the city attorney told us that although he's assuming the duties of mayor, apparently appointing someone to P&Z doesn't count in that realm. So, but there were other costs in that time period. So I think we need to give them time to be aware that that is happening now.
That's why I said we need to advertise the application for that position.
Right.
And Vice Mayor Yasu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say I want to thank the current board members and since the Madam Mayor, as well as Councilmember Carroll and former Councilmember Hadlock, all served in the board. You guys know how important it is, and I certainly want to thank them. I know it's a thankless job, but I think we certainly appreciate all the things that they do for our community. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
And that former Councilman Moore too, as well. So we want to make sure we appreciate, again, all the work that they do for us, because they are our front line in terms of the council. They review applications and everything for us. And so that is why, for me, it is so important as a previous member that we provide them the training that they need so that they can be successful for our community. That's the bottom line. And so thank you, Ms. Cowie, for making sure that we put this on the agenda. We will follow up with, if there are no other comments at this time, we will follow up with public comments from Mr. Hadlock. And you are unmuted, so you can talk now.
Yeah, I would, somebody said they wanted to hear from Susan. Why not let Susan go first?
Okay. Ms. Hood, would you like to speak at this time?
Yes, just briefly. I would look forward to having an opportunity to apply for a position on the board. Ms. Cooey is correct. At one time, in a previous administration, requested that my application be withdrawn. And as has been noted by others, it was my understanding that the vice mayor would be able to make an appointment. As it turns out, he was not able to. So I am not certain that I have an actual application, but I had spoken to the vice mayor about reopening the application process and allowing anyone in the city who is interested in serving to apply, basically starting the process anew. Thank you.
Good. And Mr. Hadlock?
Thank you. I kind of think that application process ought to be open to everybody as well. And it's an awkward situation because of the timing, because Beverly just came on as mayor, and so with the way our ordinance is, apparently, or our charter, the vice mayor could not act, and that's kind of too bad. It's jammed things up, but I would like to apply for that position, one of those positions, although I certainly, first and foremost, think Susan would be my number one choice to be on there, Susan Hood. But it's also up to the mayor. You get to be in the hot seat because you're the one making the nominations. And so time for you to be in the hot seat, Beverly.
All right.
And that's all. That's two people. So we got two out of, what did I hear? Three that are up? They're not all four up at the same time, are they?
It's three.
No, you only have 3 that are expiring on the 31st of this year. And then you have a vacant position that will expire December the 31st in 2022.
So why is it that there are three now and one, and they're not, are the positions of the terms not staggered?
No, sir, they're a 4-year term,
And
which will, 3 of them will expire. There was one that was reconfirmed the beginning of, at the end of, in November of December of last year, that expired last year at the same time. And then one vacant position, there was an appointment. However, he moved out of the city limits of Clarkston and had to resign the post. Yes, sir. So that position is still open, but it expires in 2022.
Yeah, and I wish there was some way, I wish we could stagger these openings somehow. I think it would work out a lot better. That's all. I think I've said all. I think the application process ought to be open for everybody who wants to apply, and then yeah, I would like to apply for that, for one of those seats, and I would sure like to see Susan Hood on the committee. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadlock. Are there any other public comments?
I just want to say that if there was one applicant that I saw on the packet, if he's on the line, I think that would be great if he could tell us. Unless he's not on the line, that's fine.
I don't think he is, Councilman Iyasu.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Cowie. We appreciate that. I don't see any other public comments nor any other comments from the council, which then concludes all the agenda items. I just want to take a moment to say yes, sir.
I have a motion for you. Oh, well, go ahead, finish.
I just wanted to say, because I jumped right into the agenda, I didn't take the opportunity to say thank you since this is my first meeting. I wanted to make sure I took the opportunity to say thank you to Councilman Vice Mayor Yasu for his work during this time and serving as the presiding officer. And so we appreciate everything that you've done in terms of supporting and serving our council. And thank you very much. And thank you for your the council members for your understanding with my first council meeting. So thank you very much, as well as the staff. Yes. And so at this time, I will entertain a motion from the council to recess at this time. Yes, Council Vice Mayor.
Move
Yes.
that we go to an executive session for a discussion on a legal matter.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any discussion?
No.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor of?
No.
All in
Nothing.
favor? Okay. All in favor of recessing to executive session, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion has carried. And thank you, all the residents, for your participation this evening. We will conclude our meeting in terms of executive session and then reopen for adjournment. But for now, thank you very much for your participation.
The conference has not started. If you are the host, please enter your 4-digit host code to open the conference. If you are not the host, please press the star key to connect to the conference and wait.
Let me see if we got quorum. 1, 2.
We do.
We do? Okay. Meeting
Yep.
adjourned.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.